Good evening. I'd like to call the March 10th regular board meeting of the Ramona Unified School District to order. Welcome everybody and thank you for coming. We'd like to start tonight out with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have two students from Olive Pierce here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Tatum Salazar and Mason Link. Please come up.
Oh, may I have everybody stand up?
Put your right hand over your heart.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Grizzle, you got off easy this time.
Okay. You ready to go?
We do have two items to read. Two items, right?
Yes.
Two items to read out from closed session. Mr. Dome will handle that.
Okay. In closed session, the board took action to issue notices of non-reelection to two probationary certified employees. Identification number 663554, a probationary counselor, and identification number 605983, a probationary teacher, pursuant to Education Code 44921-21, Subdivision B, effective at the end of the 24-25 school year, and directed the superintendent or designee to send out appropriate legal notices. The roll call vote was as follows. Ayes was everybody. Oh, I need to say more than that. And then the next one in closed session today, by motion of member Don Perfect, seconded by member Darren Drum, the board voted to enter into and approve a settlement agreement in student special education litigation, OAH case number 20240409798 by the following roll call vote. Ayes were Darren, Don, and Dan, and I recused.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is item C4, which is instructions for addressing the governing board.
The Ramona Unified School District welcomes your participation at the district's school board meetings. Your participation assures us of continuing community interest in our schools. To assist you in the ease of speaking and participating in our meetings, the following guidelines are provided. Orange request to be heard cards are available to all audience members who wish to speak in any agenda item or under the category of item E, public comment. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person or 15 minutes per item. Submit completed orange cards to the board's recording secretary in advance of the item presentation. Orange request to be heard cards will not be accepted once the agenda item has commenced. Speakers are asked to direct all comments to members of the board. All participants are asked to be respectful of other speakers when they are addressing the board. Public comment is set aside for members of the audience to raise issues that are not specifically on the agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person or 15 minutes per item. Public comments may be submitted online at the link listed at the top of the agenda. Please note that electronically submitted comments will be printed and distributed to the board members and will not be read aloud during the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is item C5, which is approval of the agenda.
I'll move approval. Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Did you say yes?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item C6, which is approval of the consent calendar.
I'd like to pull item C7. Consider it separately, please, C7.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
It's a motion.
Okay, so I
Second.
believe the motion was
With pulling C7.
approval with pulling C7. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item D1.
C7.
C7. That's supposed to be on consent, isn't it? I've already crossed it
There we
off.
go.
All right, let's go ahead and look at C7. Maya, you asked for it to be pulled?
Yes, actually I wasn't present at this meeting, and it did say that I voted in closed session for something. And it wasn't my intention to participate over the phone and dial up, but I wasn't unable to because I was at my mother's bedside in the emergency room. So I was thinking about it, but I never participated in anything during that meeting.
Okay.
So I will ask the superintendent to make sure that the changes are made and brought back to a future board meeting.
So I think it said something in A2 that I joined the meeting by phone, which I did not, and also it said in C3 that I also voted over the phone by phone.
Okay? If staff has any, or if you or staff has any questions about her participation, will you please just reach out to her?
Yes, that's what I noticed.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, now we get to go to our favorite part of the meeting, which is item D1, which is a school site showcase. Tonight's showcase is going to be Olive Pierce Middle School. Mrs. Benedetto and staff, would you like to come up and share your place with us?
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. I'm not going to do much talking because the true stars are here and they are going to introduce our showcase tonight. But first, if you are an OPMS family member, please stand. I would love to just thank you all for coming. Please stand. The family of OPMS. Come on, Jacobs. There we go. Thank you, thank you. We do appreciate them coming out and supporting. But if Tatum and Mason would like to take it away, I would love to introduce them to you all.
We would like to thank the board members and cabinet for allowing us the opportunity to show you how much we love our school and the community we have built.
Why OPMS is so great is because the staff is amazing, the campus is clean, I feel safe, and I put my full trust and respect towards the staff members.
The community our school has made makes students feel welcomed and comfortable. It creates a cohesive environment for the learners at OPMS. Please enjoy the video highlighting our wonderful school.
Good evening, board members. I'm Genesis, president of Olive Pierce today. And I'm Liliana, vice president. Today we'll take you through the unique culture that have been cultivated at this wonderful school. From clubs to leadership programs, you'll see the variety that makes us Olive Pierce. Every morning, the Star Spangled Banner is played as every student is brought into the day by our broadcast Olive Pierce Today. Here, we broadcast the daily schedule, the lunch menu, and the National Day, which is National Napping Day, which is the last thing you should be doing right now. I think you're forgetting something. Yes, we hear from our wonderful PLC, but they're a little busy right now. Hopefully we'll hear from them later. That's not what you're forgetting. Oh, no. That's right. Every day we hear some of the best jokes that have been transmitted through airwaves. Want to hear one? I'll humor it. What is the cutest creature in the sea? What? A cuttlefish!
At OPT, students bring the news every single day.
And as their advisor, I get to see students thrive and having fun, showing their responsibility in upholding this command. This is in no small part to our administration who, safe to say, keep us in check with the quality of our jobs.
Why do you need to watch what you say around egg whites? Because they can't take a yolk.
Hey, what about Web?
Typically, clubs will join us to announce special events and upcoming promotions.
We do assemblies, bake sales, and of course the spirit luncheon, where everyone belongs.
I love to be involved at my school and make sure everyone's included.
My favorite part about Web is the spirit luncheons and seeing everyone enjoy the time with their family and hang out with everyone.
What is your favorite part of the spirit luncheon?
Spending time with my child on his campus and seeing a little bit of the life on campus.
I think I love seeing all my students having such a fun time and getting to meet people's parents and getting to talk to them.
It's pretty cool to come hang out, and all the kids are messing around, so it's fun to watch.
Web away.
Hey, what about NJHS?
We do the estimation jar, candygrams, and organize the 4.0 Nation.
We're the National Juniors Honor Society.
Well, in JHS, we tutor, we help others and get their good grades, and then we reward them for the good grades. So, I mean, we're kind of like a helping hand in the school community.
NJHS represents just good leadership, something a lot of clubs require, rewarding kids for good grades.
NJHS leading the way.
Hey, what about your book? We document all you were talking about and put it in a nice little book.
And it's only $39.99, so go buy your yearbook right now.
I really like capturing all these fun memories that we have at our middle school, interacting with my peers and my teachers.
A fun way of getting to be a part of leadership, and kind of I've always been a fan of photography.
Yearbook close. Hey, what about ASB?
We do fundraisers, assemblies, and promotional events.
We also do some awesome dances.
We oversee it all so that it can happen.
My favorite part is the meetings, because those let me get a real life situation of like how our world works.
My club represents the student body of the school, and so we're basically the heart of the school. We do a lot of dances and stuff like that.
ASB out.
I love math because it's a fun little puzzle to solve. My favorite activity that we did was systems of equations because it has only one answer.
I love English because it brings out the best of my creative skills. I love finding new words that I don't know and understanding them better.
I like history because I like learning about the different conflicts and alliances between different nations.
My favorite science experiment was looking at the Aloda grass under a microscope.
I love how we can do experiments while also learning and collaborating with others.
The reason I love PE is because personally I'm a athletic person, and getting to embrace that in a place that is full of my friends all around me, it's a really nice attribute.
I love STEM because it helped me express all the new and fun ideas I could use with new materials. My favorite project was the Doodlebug.
I have art as one of my electives. It gives me an opportunity to show my creativity in all these different kinds of ways. I enjoy working with variations of colors.
I love theater because I like acting and being a different person than who I actually am. I also like being with a team.
I like band because you get to play new pieces. You get like winter pieces and spring pieces for concerts. I enjoy hearing how my part corresponds to other pieces.
Small engines. I really liked when we got to take apart the engines and put them back together on our own, so we knew how to do it.
What I like most about video production is having my friends around me when I record and act for videos. What I mean by acting is having a good time and being yourself while being somebody else.
Don't forget, here at OPMS, we always show
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to show what we do at OPMS and just the spirit of our school. We truly feel lucky each and every day to be with our kids and be with each other and the community that we've built. And a special shout out to Mr. Kramer. Yay. He worked tirelessly on this video with the OPT crew and the video production crew. So thank you, Mr. Kramer. Do you have any questions for us?
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
I think we're good, but I think I can speak for all of us in saying that the middle school is in a really good place, and we're really happy about that. It starts with the principal, but it's not all her. It's every staff member that works there that really has engaged in what you have today. So thank you very much. Thank you to the students and families that came out tonight to show how much you appreciate your school and how much you love your school. So thanks very much. So this is the part where sometimes the families and students split. So we will kind of slow play the next item on the agenda to give you a chance to make your exit. But thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Their video production. That is a shame that we don't have that. Yeah. It is great. Yeah. Yes.
So the next item on the agenda tonight is item D2, which is the student and program highlight. First up is the Ramona Rotary Club presenting their Student of the Month recognition. We had a packed house, so we had to kind of have a waiting room out in the hallway. So who's going to present from the Ramona Rotary? It's not them.
Maybe they're not here.
Okay, we'll move on, and then if they show up, we will come back to them. The next one is going to be a good thing. The Ramona High School Girls Water Polo CIF Section Championship Recognition.
Bring some hardware for you to see. Spread out, make sure everybody. Steve, you can get up here. You get up here too. You're part of this. Oh, thank you guys very much for having us here tonight. The water polo program's been strong for a few years, and this group here has really exceeded all of our expectations coming up for this year. We knew they had the ability, but the work and stuff that they put together and the growth they had, especially I would say the last month and a half of the season, they just kept getting better every time and kept challenging themselves and became one. So I'm really proud of each and every one. Lola Bouchot and Lauren, another program, 20 years of coaching for him. Just, you know, it's just another honor for us as coaches and to have them girls play for us and for the district itself. So, you know.
Coach, could you introduce yourself and all the girls, please, for us?
I can do that. I'm Don Williams. I've been the head coach here for 20 years, since '04. Steve Traverso, he came up here 2 years ago. He was at La Jolla Country Day before that. Avery Watkins, Allie Alberts, I call her Double A. Lauren Allen, Ava, speaker, that's my last name, sorry. I'm really bad at names right now. We call her Lurch, but it's Laura. It's Laura. And then she's just, you gotta finish these out.
Yeah, Riley Corey, Chloe Perkins, Avonlea Hammond, and Lola Bouchot. And Lola was our CIF Sportsmanship Award winner for league, first team all league. Avonlea Hammond's a junior was our league, first team all league and league MVP. Allie Alberts and Avery Watkins were second team all league. And is that it? And Lauren. And Lauren, first team all league. Thank you. So.
That's fantastic.
So,
very nice.
Which members of the team are seniors, and who will be returning next year?
Let's have fun with this one. Raise your hand if you're a senior.
Okay. Yes, we like that. Excellent. Very nice.
But,
Wow.
This is a remarkable group of young ladies and student athletes, and they are. I used a quote at the end of the season where I said I used to hate coaching girls, and I changed it to I hated coaching girls because these guys got the soft side out of me. I wrote them a nice little poem before the championship game, brought them to tears, and myself too. But they're an incredible group of young women that really represent the school, city, and district well. So we're very proud of them.
That's great. I don't remember a girls' water polo team doing this well.
We won in 2012, 2013.
That's a long time. Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much. Very nice. Very nice. And can we see the award? It's a pretty fancy one.
Oh, yes.
Yes, please do.
The senior is your
right.
swan song before you leave.
Oh,
Thank
that is
you.
gorgeous. Very nice. Did y'all take turns taking pictures with it and stuff? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Division 3 now, so that pushes us up from Division 2.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you.
So it'll be a bit of a challenge next year.
Because the Packer only lives in a couple of seniors. We have a couple of seniors in our year.
Right.
But if it only lives in a couple of them, it's going to make a big, these girls are going to make a big impact.
Absolutely.
Congratulations,
Thank you
girls.
very much.
Thank you for representing Ramona.
Yes. Very nice. Very nice.
And one last thing, forgive me, but which one of these girls is the league MVP? Congratulations.
Yes. Very nice.
Thank you very much for coming tonight.
That is so great.
All right, the next item on the D2 part of the agenda is the Ramona High School Girls Wrestling CIF Section Champions. Yeah. Wow, look at this.
Wow.
Woo! What a great night for Ramona Women's Athletics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring it on around. I don't know if I'll need this. Thank you.
You're in charge, so you take it from here.
That's a scary thing. I go or you guys go? I go. Hi, I'm Caitlin Munoz. I'm the girls' head coach for the wrestling program that started 2 years ago. This is our CIF lineup for this year. We had 21 girls come out this season. Wow. So this is, a portion of our team, but these are the ones that helped us bring home the championship this year, which is really amazing. And then we had a handful of them move on to masters, and then from there we had 2 move on to state. And I have been very blessed and honored to be able to be their head coach. I don't like talking about it. I am not an emotional person, but just watching how these girls came together, having 21 girls on a team, I'm sure you can imagine emotionally and just in high school in general is a lot. There's just a lot going on, and they all do their best to put everything aside for their team. And it showed, because despite any chaos or drama that might have been going on, they showed up and fought for each other. And we didn't just win CIF, we won by 102 points.
Wow.
So it was,
Wow.
real close.
Yeah.
Halfway through, the refs were, not the refs, the coaches were like, oh, so you're just having your own tournament at this point.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry.
That is fantastic.
It's the Ramona kids. Anyways, they all showed up in an incredible way, and I couldn't be more proud of just the women that they are, and what they're willing to do when I ask them. Coachable and teachable and kind and thoughtful, and anyways, they make me proud to be coach. So these are my girls.
What a nice compliment. Sorry to put you on the spot, but will you introduce the team?
Absolutely. I have Candy Servin. She's our lightest. She's been actively trying to make weight all season because she is actually like 10 pounds lighter than any person she goes against, the poor thing. I have Fatima Soto. Angela Williams is not here, but she's in my 115. I'm sorry, my 110. I have Savannah Diaz. I have Danielle, who's not, Sherlyn was my 120, sorry. Sherlyn, Sanchez, Hannah Gonzalez, Katie Beals. I was trying to go in weight order because it's usually easy, but we've had substitutions, so. Okay, Sierra Bergen, not Danielle. I have a sister on the team. And then I have Jenna Lee, Eden McNett, thank you. I have Juliana Peckhilder, I have Taryn Lee, Caitlin Peck, and Robin Moore. And that's my girls. I didn't miss anybody, right? Okay. Yep.
That's great.
We had 5 CIF champs.
Wow.
Please raise your hands for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Get it up
CIF
there,
champs.
proud.
You had 5 CIF champs.
I did, yeah.
And 2 went to state. Which 2 went to state?
Taryn Lee and Juliana Peckhilder.
Excellent.
Congratulations. So, girls wrestling, do we have programs in Ramona before high school, or were some of you new to wrestling in high school?
We do have a youth program.
Okay.
Juliana was a part of that, and Taryn, Robin, Jenna, Sierra. Yeah, a good portion of them.
So what age does that start? Or wait,
6 years
age?
old.
6 years old?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
4 years?
They just
I
have
see
to have
somebody
a-
holding up 4 fingers.
Well, they have to be able to qualify for a USA Wrestling card. So once they can have a USA Wrestling card, then they can be a part of the youth program. I just found that out because I have a 4-year. Actually, how did that happen? 4 it is then, I guess, because I have a 4-year-old and he's in the program. Sorry.
That's great. Well, what a great way to build a team, obviously.
Absolutely.
Very good.
And also, a handful of them are from our Ramona MMA and Alliance Jiu-Jitsu gyms.
Right.
That's where I came from. And so we've kind of made a bridge there. So they get to have them in the off season and they get to just destroy tournaments for them if they choose, and then they come back to us.
Year-round training.
It's fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Combat sports. Anyways.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming tonight, ladies. Congratulations. What a great accomplishment. And thank you for representing Ramona.
Absolutely. That is so good. And it seems like a few years ago we only had like 1 or 2 girls, right? Now
Yeah.
we have a whole team. That's awesome. Fantastic.
All right,
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
the last item on D2 is the Ramona Rotary Club High School Student of the Month recognition. Do we have someone from Rotary here?
Does not look like it.
All right, we will try to bring them back next month. Next item on the agenda is item D3, which is a report from our student board members. Kiana, why don't we start with you?
One more time.
Members of the board and Dr. Thurman. Montecito's second trimester ended on February 28th, and we had 8 students graduate early. We welcomed 14 new students from Ramona High School at the start of the third trimester last Monday. Montecito held its annual college and career fair a few weeks ago in the gym. There were more than 20 representatives from schools, vocational and training programs, and careers. All of our students were really excited with the wide variety of presenters. They asked great questions and were able to envision a future after high school. Representatives were present from California State University San Marcos, Palomar College, Poway and Escondido Adult School, Ramona Unified School District, Job Corps, California Conservation Corps, 6 sheriff's departments, and others. Thank you, Dr. Thurman and cabinet members for attending the fair as well. We are also partnered with the Ramona Soroptimist Club for their Dream It, Be It curriculum. Each week for 7 weeks, several members of the local Soroptimist Club are hosting a class with a group of young ladies at Montecito to empower them to overcome obstacles and plan for the future. Our final workshop is this Saturday. About 40 students are going on a field trip to Palomar College this Wednesday. They will get to tour the campus and visit classrooms and CTE programs. Palomar College has also hosted 2 enrollment workshops on campus. Flag football season starts this week, and our first 3 games are away, starting next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Kiana? All right, we'll move on to Izzy.
Over at Mountain Valley Academy, we have our PTSA's annual Pasta Family Dinner this Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. at OPMS. This is a great annual event with fun and games from ASB and also some great raffle baskets and a great chance. Come by and check it out. Speaking of ASB, last Friday we had an NBA March Madness for the high school grade levels, where each grade level got to participate in games to compete for points against each other, and the junior class won, so congrats to them. Along with that, we have our ASBC's Candy fundraiser, which is selling from March 10th to April 4th. You can place an order online through our QR code or our website posted on the NBA page, and it's shipped directly to you. This is one of our bigger fundraisers for ASB, and so it's just a really fun activity for everyone. 7th and 8th grade transition meetings are coming up on March 11th and 15th to prepare these grade levels for their next steps and get them used to what their next year is going to look like. Our K-5 extras are also going strong, and the kids are doing some amazing projects like crystal block building and a woodworking lab next week. Finally, I wanted to mention that the Kiwanis Student of the Month for February is Nick Miller, an MPA 6th grader, so I wanted to congratulate him. Thank you to RHS for the long invite. We are so excited to go, and it was like a really fun event, and thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
Nice.
Any questions for Izzy?
Yeah, when is spaghetti night?
Friday.
This coming Friday? At OPMS in the big hall? The PAC. Thank
From
you.
5 to 8. Plug it.
Yeah.
All right. For those who didn't hear, their fundraiser, they have 2 fundraisers. They have the Seas Candy fundraiser coming up, and plug that again. How do we buy that?
On our MPA website or even our CMS website, we have our ASB Seas Candy fundraiser flyer posted, and it has a QR code and our website that you can reference.
Thank you. Nicely done. And 5 to 8 in the pack at OPMS is the family spaghetti dinner. All right. See you guys there. All right, Faith, we'll move on to you. It's all yours.
Good evening. My name is Faith Walsh, and I'm the Student Board Representative from Ramona High School. Thank you to Dr. Thurman, President Perfect, and the RUSD Board and Cabinet for having me here tonight and providing me with the opportunity to represent Ramona High School. Congratulations to our girls water polo. They won the Division III CIF Championship, another CIF banner for Ramona High School. Our Bulldogs played at Palisades High School in the first round of the state playoffs, losing a close game 11-10. We are very proud of our Bulldogs. Mr. Ramona pageant is coming back to Ramona High School after years of it being gone. This is where the guys at Ramona High have an opportunity to show off their special talents and show off different outfit themes to family and friends. ASB is hosting a book drive, an effort to give back to elementary schools. Area R is coming up this Friday, March 14th. It's where the student leaders from our elementary schools around the district come to RHS and work with our ASB. Course registration for the 25-26 school year is in full swing. Should be complete before we leave for spring break. Looking forward to spring break week of March 24th through 28th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Faith? Kind of have a theme going on at tonight's board meeting, a theme of women. And thank you guys for coming tonight. Congratulations to the high school for their athletic teams that did so well. And we'd love for you guys to stay, but if you can't, we understand. We have some important items on the agenda tonight, so if you can stay, we would love you to.
And I think these are gifts from FFA, so thank you. Pass on our thanks, please.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
They're so cute, too. Adorable.
All right, next item on the agenda is item D4, which is a report from the California School Employees Association, Chapter 733. All I don't see anybody rushing up forward to address us. The next item on the agenda is item D5, which is a report from the Ramona Teachers Association.
You think I'm joking? Those chicken feet taste
When
like
you said that,
Starburst.
I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think I have eaten those.
I never had until Mrs. King told me she couldn't stop eating them. So
Well, I mean, who could resist?
they really are chicken feet. They're
Yes, they're
cute.
super cute. Super cute. Yeah. Yeah. Please
I'll let
pass on
Mrs.
our
King know
thanks.
you were willing to
Yes.
share. She should have stayed.
Oh, and eggs and bacon.
Yes.
How cute.
Yes.
Thank you.
So yes, they celebrated our staff this last week, which was amazing at RHS. Also, the RHS bands took a trip to Los Angeles to watch the performance of the Los Angeles Philharmonic. This was especially special because it is one of the best orchestras in the world, and their conductor has his final season this next season because he is moving to the New York Philharmonic. So it was a pretty big deal. RHS ASB hosted some Link crew leaders, East Lake Middle School ASB students, as well as leaders from OPMS. The day was led by a professional trainer from CATA, who's the state leadership organization, and the focus was on creating an inclusive and welcoming campus for all students. ASB members are also going to be hosting the elementary schools as they are traveling to RHS on Friday to participate in the student-led Area R conference. Elementary leaders join ASB high school leaders to team build and do activities and programs. One of the highlights for all the student leaders across RUSD, and that was actually from an elementary teacher excited for the opportunity. New beautiful artwork from Miss Moran's classes are on display in the front office at RHS. If you haven't had a chance to go by, I encourage you to check it out. It's also available online. She has an online student arts gallery. Please join Miss Moran in celebrating these impressive students' accomplishments in art. Students learn valuable, creative, problem-solving, critical thinking, and communication skills that have powerful impacts on their ability to be successful in all of their classes, as well as beyond the high school classroom. Check it out on RTA social media too. We shared it there. RHS is hosting the annual Adapted PE Track Meet next Friday, so mark your calendars. Next Friday, March 21st. Before we head into spring break, we hope to see you all there. Miss Gunnett's class at Ramona Elementary read with their buddies in Miss Douglas's 4th grade class last week for Reading Across America, and check out those photos on RTA social media as well. At Barnett, the 4th and 5th grade classes conducted mock interviews today to prepare for their real interviews tomorrow. The students will be interviewing with the 4th and 5th grade teachers to secure a job for the upcoming field trip to BizTown. Congratulations to 8 students graduating from Montecito High School in trimester 2. This milestone marks the culmination of their hard work, determination, and growth throughout their entire academic journey. MHS is proud to celebrate their success and is excited to see what their bright futures for these graduates will be. While School Social Work Awareness Week may have just passed, it's always a great time to also acknowledge and celebrate the incredible work of our school social workers. These dedicated professionals are essential in fostering safe, supportive, and inclusive environments for students, families, and staff. Their commitment to promoting mental health, offering resources, and creating positive school climates deserve recognition all year long. And also big kudos to OPMS with everything that they are doing and their entire staff here presenting all the fabulous things that are happening on their campus.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right. We will move right along. Next item on the agenda is item E1, which is public comment. Mr. Dome, do we have any request cards to address the board?
We don't. That was from the other one.
Okay, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is item F3, which is the report on mid-year local assessments.
Good evening, President Drum and Governing Board. I'm excited tonight to bring forward, Sean, we're going to give this to Robin. That's okay. To bring forward Robin Aaron. She's back again to talk assessment data. She was in March here talking about the California dashboard, and now she is back to talk about our local assessments. So some of our formatives, MAP and DIBELS assessments, and even LPAC, I believe she's going to cover a little bit of that also. So Robin, I'm going to let you take it away and not take away any of your time.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me here this evening. Do you want to put it in presentation mode or? Nope.
That's not this one. Yep. Nope.
Dude. Nope.
Nope. The one with the
one with the
graph on the
dots.
front.
There you go.
Yes.
Yep. There we go. Okay. So I've brought to you this evening some of our local assessments. In the past, we saw some of our California school dashboard data, and now this is a look at some of our benchmark and common assessments that we have throughout our district. And so we're going to start with our English language arts data. We are looking here at a table that shows our longitudinal map growth over time. And so what we've done is we've taken a measure winter to winter and the percent of students who have met their growth targets. And the way this is organized is you'll see the years in those vertical columns year over year by school year, and then the colors identify cohorts. So when you look at the pink, you'll see that in 2019-20, the students in pink were first graders, and then as they went through the years, you'll see that the cohort changed colors from year to year. And then down at the bottom, you'll notice that we've added 2 grade levels from previous years. So we've got grade 7 and 8 here. They used to take English language arts reading formative assessments that were co-constructed by our teachers, but now they've elected to align our assessment to our grade 1 through 6. So now we have a consistent measure for our first grade through 8th grade, and we're really excited to see that data grow. And what I'm really excited to see here is that we're really holding steady. But if you take a look at our first graders, they really shined tremendously, and we'll see a little bit of that data later. Any questions on how to read this chart?
But you're going to dive into first graders in a second, right?
Yes. Okay. And so then here, what we see here is our winter to winter data in a little bit of a different view. And so when you take a look at the blue rectangles, that is the normed reference data that NWEA, which is the company that we purchased the MAP assessment from, they say that a first grader at this time of year with this much instruction should really see about 18 points of growth. And our first graders experienced 25 points of growth. And they're the RIT points, but this is the mean or the average score for first graders and compared to our average score of first graders. So when you take a look at grade 1, that you'll see that giant jump, but then grades 2 and grades 3 all showing that we're either meeting or exceeding our expected growth targets, and by how many RIT points. And I really attribute that to the wonderful instruction in all of our K1 and 2 classrooms that are using our foundational reading skills instruction and specific and the phonics, explicit phonics instruction in all of those classrooms. I'm really excited to see how this continues to grow. We have a wonderful TK program, and our teachers have spent a lot of time embracing and learning about how to developmentally build foundational reading skills for our youngest learners in TK, and the Tools of the Mind curriculum is really engaging and fun for the students, but also the teachers. So kudos to our classroom teachers for really implementing those foundational reading skills for across the board. So I'm hoping to then see this continue. Any questions? Okay. So then what we have here are the projected proficiency to meet the ELA or the CASP scores. And so this will be what we're about to take in the spring here, and that's our statewide assessments, and that shows the percent of students that will likely be meeting the ELA CASP assessments. And so in grade 3, we're looking at nearly 50%. In grade 4, we're looking at 43%. And so this is that projected proficiency. But what I would like to call out is that in last year's CASP scores, the third graders last year met at 38%, and now we're projecting that 43% will meet. So we're likely going to see in that same cohort a growth in the percent of students that will likely meet or exceed the standards in CASP. We see a 5-point jump from 3rd to 4th. We see a 5-point jump from 4th to 5th, a 3-point jump from 5th to 6th, and from 6th to 7th, an 11-point jump. So we're really looking forward to seeing some of those scores coming up. So hopefully everybody shows what they know, and then we will really start to see a consistent improvement to our scores. Looking at our youngest learners, we have our DIBLs, or Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. And what you're looking at is the percent of students who show negligible or minimal risk when it comes to reading. And so what you're seeing here is that positive trend when you go from left to right, the light blue, the dark blue, and then the gray blue. We're starting to see that upward trend, so more and more students are demonstrating little to no risk when it comes to reading. At the secondary level, high school level I should say, teachers in 9-12 created some assessments a few years ago, and they really wanted to give this a little bit more focus, and the teachers really weren't yet ready to embrace the MAP test, if at all. And so what you'll see here are 3 years worth of data. That first year was when we were constructing those assessments. Year 2, that was when we were refining and updating and changing those assessments. So this is our first year, year 3, where we're really starting to see some steady implementation of our reading literary texts formative assessments. And the results are a little bit less consistent in the other areas, but I think we'll start to see some consistency now that the assessments are set, and we've committed to this for the next few years. 7 and 8 only have the 2 years because they went to MAP test. And now we're looking at math. Our math teachers at the secondary level, middle school and high school, also elected to join our elementary team, so that now we have a consistent grade 1 through grade 11 math measure that measures the students' performance on the standards. And so again, you'll see by cohort the performance and progress that our students are seeing across the board. And we are really seeing some nice growth in the high school levels. So we're really excited to see that continue, just showing how our students are the percent of students that are meeting those expected growth targets. It's a lot of data. I'll give you a minute. Any questions on this table?
Just more that it's unfortunate we don't have results in those other years on the upper grades. Can't really see what went on before.
Right. We had our formative assessment data, but then with the shift, we're really starting to see teachers actually use the MAP results more formatively, like we had hoped. So teachers are meeting, looking at the data, looking at the standards, and how can they intervene appropriately and start filling in those gaps for students.
And just we'll just say from 2021 on, the the requirements, or let's say what's being actually tested, did not change. It's the same in every year, right?
The assessment, you mean?
Yeah, because
Yes.
sometimes assessments change, right? We know. Like
So-
the dashboard.
The map assessment has not changed, so
Okay.
there is consistency with what students are seeing
Okay.
mathematically.
That's good.
So that is an apples to apples comparison. How about that?
No, I'm glad to hear that, because it's hard for us to analyze something when literally the target's moving all over the place.
I do understand your comment. Okay, and then looking again at this this report, you'll see that the gray boxes indicate the expected growth for the grade levels. And then what you'll see in the numbers are our actual average growth by the grade levels. So taking a look at our scores, we're really, if we're not actually exceeding the expected growth, we're very close to meeting that growth. And then once again, when you take a look at the mathematical projected proficiency, you're going to see how the percent of students that we're projecting to meet or exceed year over year. And while we're not seeing as much growth from our reading or our ELA results, we do expect to see similar or a slightly more positive growth by grade level. And so you might ask, what are we doing to support the students? Yes, we are excited to see the growth, but also if you're really analyzing it, you're noticing that we still have a large number of students within our district that are not meeting or exceeding their growth targets and that are not meeting or exceeding the standards. And so we still have work to do, but I'm really excited to share with you once again our collective commitments. And ultimately, we've had our instructional focus for about 10, 12 years now, and these collective commitments by all of our educators are really our pathway on how we're going to meet our instructional focus and really get students to construct learning through relevant and rigorous tasks that demonstrate standards-based speaking, reading, writing, creating, and problem solving. And that's connected to our district-wide professional learning, which we affectionately call our RLT, that expands to the different schools. And there really are some amazing things that are going on throughout our schools that are yielding some very positive results. So at Mount Woodson, all of their teachers after this year will have been GLAD trained. GLAD is a very specific, intensive training that helps to incorporate English language development into the lessons and really develop the language skills of all students, but targeting our English learners. Additionally, Ramona High School has spent some time really building the instructional capacity of the math team and the science team, and helping them to target interventions based on data or to develop really engaging hands-on lessons within those departments. Olive Pierce and Ramona High School together are participating in the ELD Collaborative led by San Diego County Office of Education, where that collaborative, and if you want to see something great, on March 20th, it'll be at San Diego County Office of Education. There's the showcase, but the schools have really taken the work that is presented there and owned it. And so that has led to a shift in their LPAC meetings, where they're meeting with the families and having family listening circles, and the families and now the students and families are able to just sit and express their needs or perspectives that maybe we haven't heard before, and then incorporating those things that they're hearing into the school or into the school's culture or into the classroom. So there really is what we've always wanted, which is a true partnership with families, not just open communication, and that partnership is really developing and thriving. So I'm super excited to hear about that and see that. OPMS wanted to call out specific growth, that their English language arts, they're showing that they're performing at the 51st percentile for growth, and they saw the biggest gains in 7th grade, and their English learners are at the 48th percentile, and that's really close. There's not a big gap between the English learners and the whole school. That's huge because we've typically seen English learners with a big gap. And then they're also, for their math team, they're seeing great growth in the math, especially with their 8th grade math team. And they're attributing this success to the implementation of Map Accelerator with Fidelity. They are really building a healthy testing culture that makes kids excited about the opportunity to test and show what they know, as well as showing kids their individual data so that the kids are invested and they're looking at their own growth moving forward. So kudos to RHS to OPMS for really setting that culture of looking at their own data. And then Barnett is really attributing a lot of their growth. Their math growth for students with disabilities is in the 66th percentile, and with 6th grade average growth at 89th percentile. And this success is contributed to they attribute that to implementation of those instructional strategies from CGI, as well as their attendance has increased. And so their chronic truancy was at 31%, and now it's at 19%. So again, they're getting kids here, they're learning. So lots of great things happening all over the district. And that's it. Any questions other than that?
Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Any questions from our student board members?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I have a lot.
I don't.
He has a lot.
So go ahead.
I always do.
Oh, and some of his maybe
Yep.
what you have.
Go ahead. Take it.
Okay, so in all the data, I'm assuming special ed students are in that data, right?
Yes, so this is our all-student group information.
So when we look at, just help me to understand the data, because we're kind of ranked low in all of the countries, but that's because we include all of our special ed, and a lot of countries don't do that. And so I want to just kind of understand, it would be helpful maybe in the future that we kind of know for each grade level, because these are percentages, like how many are special ed, just so we can kind of differentiate that to help us.
Absolutely. The reason why you have the all-student group is because we truly do expect all of our students, regardless of what challenges that they might be experiencing or what positive experiences they might be having, that they are all going to have that very same bar. However, I understand what you're saying, because it might just be helpful to be able to disaggregate the data some more. So I would be happy to share some of that disaggregation with you.
Just so I can kind of see that. And then my other question is, what's the expectation on homework these days? Just so I understand how that's affecting this data.
I'm going to be very honest with you. That is truly a site-by-site, teacher-by-teacher decision. And so I'm going to guess, and from conversations that I've had, homework expectations will be all over the map.
Okay, so I would suggest that we have some kind of unity in that. Maybe we talk about that as a board. And well, if it's all different everywhere, maybe we should talk about it.
Right?
Yeah.
We're currently working with principals to get their current baseline homework plan with what they have on their campus. They've been sent out a shared folder with which to put their homework plan in, so we can know exactly where we are.
I think it's important that we're unified as a district on it, because the more practice they get, then the better they become. And the reality is that there's a push by, I think it's kind of just by community, to not do homework, to not have any homework. When they leave school, they don't have anything. But the problem is that kids, are they going to read all day at school? No, they need time to read. They need time to do things that they can't just do in school. The other thing is, you'd talked about, I think, chronic absences or something which affects it. But I think there's something else going on that's rarely talked about. I mean, teachers talk to each other about it, and that is chronic missing assignments. That's another huge problem. And how does that affect the student learning? And I think that we need to address that. I really think that when a student's missing, even, we'll say 5 assignments, maybe you have, this is a lot of assignments, maybe you have 40 assignments or 50 assignments in a class in a semester, and they miss 5. Well, they just missed 10% of their education because they didn't do it. And so I think those are some things that we should look at, and then that goes to expectations. And I was really glad to see that on this little chart, what works, you have expectations. That's super important. The higher we can make the expectations, then the students will reach. They're going to definitely try to reach whatever expectation we set forth, right? So that's something that I would continue. But I would add something. You have 4 different categories. We know that students do really well when they have an opportunity to connect their learning somehow, and hopefully connect it to something that is going on outside of the classroom. So it could be in a potential career, it could be in anything. And so I would add a whole category on project-based learning personally. And I would really encourage, at least in the high school, that we do internships. There are schools that everybody in their junior year does an internship and it's required. So just something, I know that kind of focuses more on CTE. And then how do we involve parents into this plan? I was curious about that.
So we are required to notify families and parents when some of our larger assessments are happening. So required for sure for statewide assessments, but we also let them know when we're jumping into our benchmark assessments like MAP assessments, and we try to inform them. And MAP has a great parent report that we print out and we send home, and typically at the elementary level they send it home in the report card envelope. So after fall, after winter, after spring, when they give those assessments, and then I believe middle schools and high schools, they send that out as well. I'm just not sure if it's electronic or if it's actually sent home in hard copy, but that's one way to engage families. I think that it's great that it is now, a K-8, K high school assessment, because at the elementary school, I know that they, during parent-teacher conferences, they take a look at the MAP data and they'll look at that report and talk to parents about that important information. And so then it just starts to build an understanding around that assessment. And then as it goes on, our secondary families don't necessarily have parent conferences unless it's a request. And so then, but they'll have had that education, if you will, on how to read that report.
Okay, I just want to make a suggestion that we know from data.
I need to get a pencil. You've given a lot of things and it's going to all fall out of my brain.
These are just, well, it's because I'm a teacher, so, I'm doing my teacher voice or whatever. But I want to make a suggestion that we know that when parents are actively involved in the education of their child, kids do better, right? So if we can somehow get the parents involved actively helping their children learn. I know during COVID it was a very ugly situation because the parents, it was just thrusted on them. But we could have things where parents are helping their kid. Maybe it's just, and it could be for every single kid, maybe we have assignments that parents have to check off or sign. I know that some teachers do this already, but something that's more universal, I think that there's a lot of different tactics we could use, but I wanted to suggest that. And part of it is because we know that kids still have a lot of anxiety. And they naturally had anxiety even before COVID. So that just kind of amplified it. So anything that we can do to help kids be active in their learning and constantly working on it actually helps relieve anxiety. It's when kids don't have anything to do, then they start thinking and worrying about themselves. And so there's just some things. I think mental health is actually simply doing your work could actually help mental health. And we have a lot of kids that try to avoid. They're like, what's the easiest class? Take that teacher. They're the easiest teacher, right? Or you'll hear things like, well, take this class. It's super easy. Or, don't take the AP test. You don't need to take the AP test. Just take the class. You hear all these things. But what happened to the discussion of take this class because it's super hard, but you're going to learn a ton. That teacher really is going to prepare you for college. You don't hear that as much. And I think that's setting the bar, the expectation higher. I hope I didn't come across like telling you what to do. I just have these ideas. Just when you were talking, I was like, oh, this is great. We have all this growth, and that's doing good. But I think we can go even higher. So anyway,
I think we need to.
yes.
Right? Well said. He brought up a thing. Could I request that with the next update or sometime in the near future, we include that homework policy that we reviewed and approved 8 months ago, 10 months ago? Just for, not to bring back unless there's interest in bringing it back, but just so that we can all catch up on it. Don or Dan, which to you guys?
You can go to Dan. It's
Okay,
fine.
Dan?
Robin, I think it was 18 months ago, might have been 2 years. I was pretty happy about it. But the district adopted a phonetics program into the reading program. And when I'm looking here on the diebells, I'm seeing across the board improvement. Do you attribute that to the phonetics to date?
I definitely think that contributes most definitely. I also think that we have a wonderful crew of intervention teachers at our elementary schools that work together, they collaborate, and they really, really have an intervention program at the schools that are based on progress monitoring, fidelity to the programs, as well as then like the U-Fly maybe is one of the things that you're talking about, where in the general education classroom or the homeroom setting, they're also training and building up the skills and the capacities of our teachers to implement these foundational reading skills in the classroom that is based on explicit phonics instruction.
And that will continue, I'm hoping.
It is working, and so what works continues, absolutely. The excitement and the conversations that I've had with teachers, it's all very positive. I don't see that momentum shifting, truthfully.
Thanks, Rob.
You're very welcome.
Don, you're on.
Thank you for this report. I love the way the data is presented, and I will look at it a little bit more at home, but I see some really positive trends here. The numbers on the mathematics growth targets, amazing, very nice. It's really nice to see that. And of course, I want to know what's happening there with the first grade and the reading, because that's phenomenal. So thank you.
Yeah, we're really proud of our teachers, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, we're really
You're
happy
welcome.
to see all the growth.
All right, next item on the agenda is item F4, which is the report on pilot of instruction curriculum, Unit 1 for Ethnic Studies course.
Good evening, board. Tonight, as an information item, we're bringing forward the first unit for the English Language Arts Ethnic Studies course. And before I just share a little bit about the unit, I want to applaud these teachers who have been working tirelessly. This is, yes, and most of them are, I think all of them are in the room with us tonight. This is a very, very unique circumstance and situation. We've never done this before. Most districts have not done this before. We are writing curriculum. Publishers make millions, if not billions, of dollars to write curriculum, and that is no easy task. And so that's long hours, that's lots of research, that's trying to align it to state standards, state requirements, and create lessons that are engaging for high school students. It is a very, very tall task. Not to mention, let's provide scaffolding for our English learners, our students with disabilities, and our at-risk students who do not read or write well. So I have to just applaud that team. They have been absolutely phenomenal. Please stand for those of you that have been working on our ethnic studies curriculum that are here tonight. And also just kind of calling out something very different with this pilot and this circumstance. Because we are writing curriculum, What you have in front of you tonight as what we plan to pilot in fall of 2025, the more we learn about writing curriculum and the more clarity we start to realize that we need so it's clear to the outside person looking at it, things will be tweaked and it will come back to the board to provide that clarity in a revised where we call out those revisions as that happens. Same with while we pilot. You know that when we pilot curriculum, we don't just automatically bring it back to you for an adoption. We pilot it, we use our rubrics, we evaluate it, and then we decide, do we want to bring it to the board for approval? And if we do, then we tell you why and we give you that data. Often we say, we didn't, and we're going to bring something else back for pilot. So that happens on a regular basis for most of our courses, but this is very unique and it's going to look different because we're writing it. And so one of the things we talked about in our multicultural committee today where we reviewed the units was it does look different. And what you see today, they gave us feedback today on what about this or what about that? I'm not clear. Where is that writing or where is that, something like that? We're taking notes because it is not perfect as it is right now. It is a labor of love and passion and absolutely tears and sweat, no doubt. But it is in a great form right now, but it's not complete. It's not done. And I just need to be very transparent with the board and our community that it is going to continue to be refined. And with each refinement, with a certain amount of time, we'll bring that back as an information item also. Okay, so, hey, we've made some updates. There's enough updates that we want to let the board know. Now in fall, we might be piloting something that's like this. And it shows you and tracks the changes for you. Just to be clear and transparent, because writing curriculum is not easy. So unit 1 that you have here in front of you tonight is about 8 to 10 weeks. We will be piloting these units next school year. Then we will hopefully bring all units, actually, I have to change my mind on that. What we will likely do is as we pilot, we'll bring each unit back for approval, because to bring all of it back at once is a lot on everybody to review. So like we're bringing each one forward as an information item for pilot and potentially bringing them back with any changes that we have as we go, the same thing will go as we pilot. We'll bring it back for the board for approval, one unit at a time.
Are the pilot teachers the same teachers that just stood?
Yes.
Okay. Exciting.
Yes, it is exciting.
And so it's going to be not just English, but do we have an art?
We will.
Okay.
It's art is a little more slow moving.
Okay.
Because as you can imagine, English teachers are writers. Writing curriculum is a little bit easier for a writer or an English teacher than it might be for an artist. So that has created some unique opportunities for learning how to really refine curriculum writing. And I will likely be sending a memo to the board on Friday, as we do our Friday memos, letting you know that VAPA course, that unit that you're anticipating on Friday will not be coming Friday. It will probably be coming in a couple weeks. We don't want to rush it, and that one is not, we just have to have one being offered in the next school year. And so we're still hopeful to have it done by June, but we also really want to pour into our English, and we also don't want to rush. We want to make sure we're...
Can I just ask more of a personal question for the pilotors or the writers? And that is, when are you doing this? That's my question.
Nights, weekends, after work, during the day and release time, they are, as I said, working tirelessly on this curriculum.
I just want to say thank you.
They get paid for this extra time?
They do.
For all of this?
Yes. Well, no. I'm sure they absolutely are working more than what our budget is paying them for sure. I'm sure, but any extra days that we add on or summertime days or anything like that, absolutely right. we are paying them their hourly rate for that.
Yeah,
but like with any teacher, no.
But it's just the hourly rate, so it's kind of
Yes.
not that much, but we
Yes.
appreciate it very much. We want you to know.
And to clarify too, because I know sometimes funding is a really interesting dynamic. We do have an ethnic studies budget. The state gave us funding, about $45,000, and those are the dollars that we have used so far to date to create these courses. And so between the contract that we had with SDCOE to help provide professional learning and the time that we're paying for subs when teachers are out of the classroom or those extra days, that's the budget that it's coming from.
So you're saying that $45,000 was appropriated by the legislature for us to actually implement this class?
About $2.57 a student.
Develop or implement?
I would have to go back to be certain on the ed code. Develop, I believe, was the. Yes, there's a conversation going on about that.
How
Correct.
much money have we left from those 45,000 that we got?
We've spent less than 10,000. I actually looked that up because I was reading an article and where another district had spent well over 270,000, and I was flabbergasted. Because, but when you have more teachers developing curriculum, you're paying more teachers to develop curriculum. Like, we're small. We don't have 20 teachers working on this. We have a handful, 2 on English plus a teacher on assignment. That creates a lot less cost, but a lot more work for them, or a lot more release time for them, or different components like that. Some districts have teams of people working on this. I was talking with a colleague at the last curriculum and instruction meeting, and they said something to the effect of 21 teachers working on their ethnic studies curriculum. I was like, wow, what? That would be a dream, but we don't have that. We don't even have that many English teachers. So, it's all, you all have it in perspective. But yes, we've spent less than $10,000 to date so far in developing the curriculum between the time for the teachers and for the contract that we have with SDCOE for professional development. So I felt pretty proud of our team for that, just their hard work and the fact that we might be small, but we are mighty.
And we're not going to get any more money on it, correct? Because the
that remains to be seen.
Yeah, elected not to fund AB 101, and therefore there is no current mandate to offer ethnic studies curriculum, since mandate is only triggered if there is funding. That's according to this AB 101.
Let's table that part of this, and let's stick to the unit as listed on the agenda.
Yep.
And then we can certainly work on that together as a board as soon as she's done presenting.
I'm done presenting on Unit 1.
There we go. That's a segue.
So
it's just an information item, and it will follow the same process as any other pilot, where after tonight's meeting, it will get added to the instructional materials survey, where families will be able to provide feedback. It will go in the hallway along with the ability to know that they can check out a Chromebook within our office, so that they can click on the links that are within the materials, and it will go again. It's already gone to DAC and DLAC and the Multicultural Committee, and it will continue to go to all of our advisory committees within the district along the way. With each of those committees, the units will go to as well, and we'll take that feedback, just like I said, and look at our units and how they're written, and if there's tweaks that need to be made, and then we'll inform the board along the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any questions about the presentation specifically?
No question, just a comment that in the agenda, which if you're looking at it in black and white, it wouldn't be clear, but there's a link to the 17-page document that has the details. It's not in our agenda here, so you look, yeah. So
Thank you for pointing that out. So Maya brought up a question that we're not going to take action on tonight, but I would like feedback from the board. And the thing that she brought up was, my understanding is we have been given funding for development, I think, is what it sounds like to me. But funding has not been appropriated at the state level, and jump in here if I am inaccurate even a little bit. Funding has not been appropriated by the governor to implement said program. Um, Dr. Thurman, would you give some information on conversations that you have about, they're nothing more than predictions and educated guesses from people who are in the know, but they're not guarantees and they're not decisions. Can you help us out with that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, School Services of California, their CEO, John Gray, is one of the leading authorities on budgets. He's not a mind reader, however. And John Gray, along with others, are just warning and advising that they believe that funding will come. The form it'll come is unknown, and the timeline. So in a recent conversation with them and their legislative team, thought it could come anywhere between being brought up in the May revise and the formal final budget that happens before June 30th, in the form of some of the monies that are coming to us that are not appropriate to any one category. They could develop some of those funds to be towards ethnic studies, and or it could be delayed until even August or September. So they are fairly certain that there will be something coming, but they also are very clear that it is quite a political battle right now, and it's a very hot topic. I got to talk to the committee this afternoon that ethnic studies curriculum and plans are in the news almost every day, but we are really proud of the work that they've been doing, not ascribing into any one program or any one sort of cookie cutter type of plan, but really addressing it for Ramona Unified.
So we do have interest from a board member in bringing this to the body for an action item to discuss, I believe it's implementation. And I just want to know from the rest of the group, because I think we have some options. Full speed ahead, implement it, make it happen. There's different arguments as to whether it has been funded or has not been funded. Okay, I think that's an option. I think another option is to do what San Diego recently did, which was continue I think they've already developed, but not make it a graduation requirement. They voted to not make it a graduation requirement at their latest meeting, but continue with it as a pilot for the school. Is there interest in bringing it back, or do we want to continue on full speed ahead? And Maya, I already know what your thoughts are, but flesh it out. And we're not voting on anything. We're having a conversation about whether to bring it back in the future.
You want to go to each board member? No.
Yeah, Dan, start, please.
I'm inclined to make it not a mandatory graduation requirement. I would like to see it more of an elective.
So what I'm hearing is bring it back for a discussion at the board, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yes. I realize all the work that these people are putting in on the course. I agree with the idea of completing the course, whether or not it will be funded or mandated, but at least they've completed the course so that we can plug it in or not. But in the long run, I don't want it to be, I would not be happy with it being a graduation requirement.
And we might not have a choice. So, and I'm relying on everybody here. If you guys think we're crossing a line about discussing an item not on the agenda, all I'm asking for is, do you want it to come back or not?
Yes.
I want to be very careful about getting too deep into a conversation that we will have, if that's the will of the board. So, Dawn.
I think that this is listed as an information item, and what you're asking us is if there's any specific information that we would like to see back soon. The answer for me is no. I think we're on the right track. I like what I'm seeing here that's being developed. Sure, there's some questions, and as it's been explained, it's a work in progress, and we'll have our time. We'll have our time later. So yeah, thank you for the hard work.
Okay, thank you for your input, guys. This is valuable. It really is. Roger.
Okay, so for me, I kind of see what the issue is that if the state does appropriate money, then now we have the money to literally hire a whole new teacher. That's what I think the expectation is, because it's a graduation requirement and now everybody has to, meet that. So in my opinion, I think that's what this is all about. However, they could just say, oh, we already gave you money for next year. It's appropriated. It could be that simple, you know? So I think it makes sense to move forward with it, because I think, well, I don't want to be like other districts that say it wasn't appropriated and we're not going to do anything and then end up being caught unprepared. That would be a disaster for all of our students. It would not be a good thing. I don't want to do that.
Exactly, and by doing it the way we're doing it, we're not having to take something prepared off the shelf from wherever that may not meet our student and community needs. By doing the work now, and the work is funded, we can tailor materials here that match our community and student needs. We won't be able to do that if we wait till the last minute and have to quickly make a decision. So again,
Understood.
thank you
So,
for the work.
Roger, I think I'm hearing that no, you do not want to bring it back. You're comfortable with the current direction we're headed.
I'm comfortable with the direction. I do think we should talk about the materials that Maya gave us.
Yes.
Because there are some things that is, you know, are being brought up that I think our developers here should hear, and they could actually make some potential improvements. I mean, I've written curriculum, and when you only have a few people around you, you don't have like all this wealth of ideas and even people's comments. You write it and you think it's good, and then you're like, okay, now I got all this other
Right.
this other input that I could really use that's really valuable. I think it'd be helpful to provide it.
So
Just like anything, right? You have another set of eyes on it.
So
You
the-
do it, and then you
Yeah.
let somebody else look at it for some editing
Yeah.
and revision
And
possibilities.
I think the comments here are valuable. I don't necessarily agree with them all. I have my own take on them. However, I think some of the suggested materials to add might be good. So we can just provide it and then they can look at
Okay,
it.
so I just want to announce for the group
Yes, thank you.
that the documents to which Roger is referring are two. Board member Phillips gave each of the board members two handouts. One is called is from the Alliance for Constructive Ethnic Studies, and it's I guess a white paper on our first unit. And the other document is from the Californians for Equal Rights Foundation. And I would say it's an opinion piece or a white paper on Unit 1. Unfortunately, we're not making a decision tonight, but we will make this absolutely available to anybody who wishes to see it. Please reach out to staff. Okay, it's
Okay, we
available
have
now.
copies.
We've got it right here. And if you want it electronically, we'll be more than happy to provide it. Leslie, if you would please share it with the group, and I would ask the board to review it and give the superintendent your feedback on it.
I reviewed it. We didn't have a lot of time with it, but I did have time today to take a look, and there were some good points, and it is information that I would like our committee to have. Whether, you know, all of it is important to consider or not, well, probably not, but read it and understand, you know, this perspective, and that some of these things might need to be included.
Yeah, let's make sure that we as a board, and this is a request, maintain an open mind for all of the information that we're given, and we ask the same of the people who are developing this curriculum. And I think it's important to state for the group here that we don't develop curriculum, we don't write curriculum as a board. We either vote to approve or not approve the presented curriculum.
Right.
So we can give suggestions to the superintendent. Please don't reach out to the committee. He is our conduit to the rest of the district, to all staff members. So please give your comments. I'm coming to you. Please give your comments to the superintendent for dissemination. Does that work? Okay. Am I yours?
Yeah, so what Roger and what Darren were talking about, this is two analyses made by those two organizations. It's going to be part of the meeting minutes because now everybody has it. So it's going to be posted publicly on with the meeting minutes for this. Also, since it's no longer mandatory, I would like to see it to be optional, just not only like San Diego has done, but also Coronado at this point has done the same thing, and multiple districts lining up in the state to do the same thing. Because we have this very nice English 2 course that I don't want to lose. When I look at what ELA Ethnic Studies is teaching, we're losing so much literature that's currently being studied in English 2. I looked at the current curriculum, and if we switch to English with Ethnic Studies, then we are going to lose.
Maya, I don't want to go too deep into
yeah.
this conversation in this meeting. If
when?
you could give your comments to the superintendent, just like every other board member. My question now is, do you want to bring it back for the conversation that you're trying to have right now?
Yeah, I would like to bring it back, and actually as a board member, any board member can place an item on the agenda, and I think the board doesn't have to agree to that.
Well, I
So
think
according
what
to our
that
bylaws,
does, I think what this does for the superintendent and I is deciding how urgent it is and when we're going to bring it back.
well, why don't we bring it in April, and that would
Because that's
state-
up to the superintendent and the board president.
so that
And to
eliminate
determine the urgency of
Okay.
the item.
To eliminate ethnic studies as a graduation requirement in Ramona district until California legislature assigns funding.
Okay, superintendent is taking notes. I'm in favor of taking the current path and maintaining it. It sounds like we have 3-2, so it's not going to be an urgent item to come back, but we do have a request, so we will bring it back. I'll just have to work with the superintendent on when is the most appropriate time to bring it back to the board.
What would constitute appropriate time? I mean,
We're going to have to figure that out.
yeah, and I had specific questions about the curriculum that
We
were
can,
read.
we can do that when we have that. If you have something about the presentation tonight, the floor is all yours.
I'm talking about the content. So did you make a presentation about what's in that? I didn't hear much about what's in this.
It's just an information item presenting to you that we're going to pilot it.
Okay.
It's not a presentation on the actual materials itself. It's just us bringing forward and telling you that we plan to pilot.
I think, I was just going to say, I think you got, I mean, I know what your goal is here. I think you got more than you even expected, because the board is saying, give this information to those that are developing the curriculum. They're going to be seriously reading this and then making changes. That's what they're going to do. You're getting exactly what you want. But I think going over it line by line, my concern is that it's may create some hostility, because the way this is written, and that's what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to remind the writers or the curriculum developers. I'll have to wait until they're done talking.
Have we already made this a graduation requirement or not yet?
I would have to look. I believe the most recent board policy states whatever the ed code is around ethnic studies starting in the 25-26 school year with the graduating class. So it is in a board policy currently, but I believe it's with whatever the ed code says. And so we could bring that board policy back. A little bit of my concern would be I need to read the policy to see if it says based on, I don't think it says based on appropriation, because I believe the state thought they had done that.
Yeah.
And this is just like the nuance in like the definition of appropriation. And so we could bring it back and just add that component so that it would be trigger language that if it wasn't in there, then it's no longer a graduation requirement, it's an offering, as Mr. Summers had stated. And if it is an appropriation, then it would become automatically a graduation requirement. My concern is timing for the next school year. If we bring it back and we take it out, and then we have to bring it back again and put it in, right, you see the timeline hits, and then we're in August already and we're starting the school year. And so if it becomes an offering, we can pilot in sections and see how many students sign up for it, and we can offer English 2 if it's an offering. If it is a requirement, then it becomes an English 2 course that all students take. And that could be determined as we get closer to the school year, but I think unless we were to change board policy with that trigger kind of language in it, we might get ourselves in a pickle time-wise, because I don't anticipate, from what we've heard, and Dr. Thurman could say something different because he's talked to a lot of very important people up at the state about this. I don't think they're going to change the dates on us either.
Well, you did say that you do have the money for the development. It's only no money for implementation.
Correct, but that is another factor in considering where we put this requirement. So we put this requirement in an English course, so we weren't having to hire an additional teacher. So for us, there isn't additional cost. We're absorbing it into an already existing course. That was intentional for a number of reasons, dealing with master schedule, dealing with staffing, adding the VAPA course in addition, right? That's a section of VAPA. It's not a new something. So we really, as a committee, the multicultural committee and working with administration, we really thought through our, our steps, and even, right, English 2, what if a student comes in as an 11th grader? That's why we have the VAPA course. That's why we're working on it. It's really, I believe we have a very well thought out community feedback. I mean, we surveyed our community before we even started launching any work on this course. I think we've really done our due diligence in this regard. If the board wishes for something to come back, I would consider bringing back the board policy with that trigger language so that it's an automatic, and then we can clean up the board policy later when we know what's going on, but it doesn't tie our hands one way or the other.
Let me jump in here. Is there an appetite from this body to bring that board policy back?
I would just maybe ask that Brian take a look and make sure we're on track, right?
Okay.
And if we're not on track, then let us know that we need to work on it.
I'm hearing from Roger that no, and I mean soon.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing from Roger that he doesn't feel the need for it to come back soon or quickly. Maya, do you want it to come back?
So what board policy? Because all the
graduation requirement board
I see,
policy.
okay, it's in the AB 101, and I understand that mandate is only triggered if there's funding.
Maya, do you want
Yeah.
that board policy to come back to a future board meeting?
Sure.
Okay. I've got a no and I've got a yes.
Yes.
I've got a yes.
I'm neutral. I mean, I'm trusting that staff is going to keep us on track with what the law says to do.
That's
Okay.
basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't see the need to bring it back, because if something does change, then we're going to bring it back right away.
And it's the law regardless.
Yeah, there's
Right.
no reason
Whichever
to.
way it goes.
And we're going to follow the law.
We're going to follow the law. So if our
that's
board
true.
policy looks like we are not in compliance, or we're not going to be in compliance,
We'll bring it
then I
back.
would like to see it back.
I think reading the policy and getting reacquainted with it before we make these decisions is a good idea. Let's have a foundation.
So I'll ask the superintendent to send that board
Yeah.
policy out, and then if you want it to come back, email.
Right.
Email one of us or both of us, and if there's strong consensus, we will put it on the next agenda. If there's not, we will figure out when it is best suited for a future agenda.
Thank you.
This is a collective,
Figure it out.
yeah, it's a collective project that I think we all realize is coming. Maybe not. There's always that chance, but I don't want to get us behind the project and either not meet the state requirements, not be in compliance with the law, or ask our staff to rush to put out a product.
Darren, I understand, and all those thoughts, and the districts who made it optional, they already have those curriculums done and finished and ready and already voted for and ready to implement. Understand, we haven't finished this process yet, and we need to be ready in case there is funding, so we're ready to go. But also, if there's no presentation today of the content of the unit,
But you
when are
have
we
it,
going
right?
to discuss it? What?
You have the content.
Yeah, I do, but when are we going to discuss the content of the unit if that's not what
That's
we're
not
discussing?
what we do
So
here. We either
when?
approve or
When?
don't approve.
When we bring it back for adoption, you'll either approve or you'll not. So you'll either say yes or no, and that's where the discussion will happen, and you'll say your opinion on what the materials are. Just like if we were to bring a book, right? When we bring a book for pilot, we bring it. There's really no discussion normally in a pilot, right? And then when we bring it back for adoption and the presentation happens, then there's the discussion about what. Though I do welcome, right, in the event of, oh, we've read Unit 1. Dr. Thurman, here are some notes from something, or here's some research we found, and then Dr. Thurman shares that with me, the Ed Services team reviews it, depending on when we vet those materials, then they trickle down into the teachers and the curriculum writers. And so there isn't you can't provide feedback, but there isn't a platform here for that kind of a thing, because you just approve or not the materials that we ultimately bring forward.
But when are we going to ask some questions? For example, I had some concerns because there's some contradiction between the state requirements and federal requirements. And I see a collision course, and I see that if we move forward with the state requirements and what it's in the unit right now, then we are at risk of losing federal funding, because it goes right against some of the executive
those
orders.
concerns to the superintendent.
Okay. So the public will not hear the answers to that.
If you do it in email writing, it's certainly available to whomever wants to request it. Roger.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that on these documents, it's referring to two different things. One is the actual assembly bill that was passed and the spirit of the bill, but that's already been interpreted by our, I can't say it, California Department of Education, and they give us standards. So I think it is the task of the curriculum writers to focus on the standards, not the meaning of the assembly bill. And we're struggling with the meaning of the assembly bill interpreted into the standards. So I want to make sure that you understand your task and you don't have to worry about that. The other thing is, I want to say that the approach that we have done, where it's embedded into English, and then we have the additional art history class where it's embedded in, is absolutely brilliant. And you need to know that we have other districts telling us this is a brilliant idea. We didn't even think of that. So I think we're definitely on the right track. I will also say that some of the concerns that people have, and I'm concerned about their concerns, because taking one thing out of somebody's philosophy doesn't mean that you're embracing their entire philosophy. We know this. The other thing I want to remind you of is that when you're working on this, one of the directives of the board, which is in policy, is that when we write curriculum, it needs to be balanced. So if there is something that you find in these documents where you could make it more balanced, maybe a suggestion of something that you could use, I welcome you to embrace that, because I think that will help. But at the same time, there's some, I don't want to go into details, but I'm kind of surprised, because I know these people, I know these entities, and I'm like, really? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, really? Because I completely 100% disagree on some of these things that they're saying. And so, to me, when you talk about identity, you can talk about that from the day you're born. So I don't have any problem with that. And you clearly have a race, you clearly have an ethnicity, you clearly have a gender. You know that. What's the big deal about talking about, I'm male, I'm female, I'm of this race, I'm of that race? I think the problem is the controversial issue part of it, keeping it balanced. That's really what the issue is. We do need to talk about who we are. That helps us to understand our heritage, where we came from. We identify, we have traditions in our family because of that. And I have to tell you, I have friends that are just across the border. They tell me, oh, well, you're really Mexican, because I identify with them and we're friends. But I'm not, but you kind of see where I am, because they've invited me into their culture. And I think that's the way this should be. We should be celebrating every culture. And people should feel that you can invite somebody into your family. Anyways.
I saw just focused less on the literature, more on race and gender identity and all those things that don't belong to academics and to ethnic literature. So all those things have very little to do with ethnicity or with literature.
So please submit those concerns to the superintendent.
Also struggle that with the concept that what I saw in the unit contradicts federal executive orders, and makes me wonder, are we at risk of losing federal funding?
So please forward those concerns to the superintendent.
Those are definitely valid concerns. I mean,
Sure.
I totally see where you're coming from. This is one unit. It definitely does not, these are opinions. So I don't see it there. I've read the unit outline. I've read the suggestions. I don't see anything what they're talking about. I think it's a big stretch. If there's some kind of underlying tone that we're trying to do something, but it's not even there. So it's more of an opinion of somebody that has certain ideas that are trying to find it. I think it's kind of like anything. If you're looking for something, you're going to find it, even if it's not there.
I think we're a little in the weeds on this at this point.
Yeah, thank you.
I did see
Go
some
back to our agenda.
So
I did see some Marxist terminology in there, DI and CRT.
okay, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Dr. Thurman, do you think you have clear direction on, on next steps? Okay, thank you. And again, guys, all concerns need to go through the superintendent, not the staff directly. They need to go through the superintendent. The superintendent has got, I think, clear idea of the wishes and the ideas of this board. And then I want to remind everybody that this board does not write curriculum. We either approve or don't approve when it's brought to us for a vote as an action item. However, if you have concerns, please voice them, because there's the five of us have a diverse number or amount of opinions, and some are right and some are off, some are wrong, but let's consider them all for their merit. So we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item F5, which is a report on the local control and accountability plan.
Still me. LCAP season is here, and we just wrapped up our educational partner survey, and we had a great response, and I'll wait for Sean to get it up on the screen for all of you in slideshow format. Thank you, Sean. As you all know, a big component to our LCAP has to do with feedback from our educational partners. And one of the largest ways we can get that in with over 3,000 responses that we'll talk about here shortly is through this survey. And then from there we have to I'm the one with the clicker. We have to align what our educational partners are saying and how that fits in with our state priorities and district goals, and then align our actions and services, and ultimately figure out how to fund that based on the data, based on the feedback, and all of those pieces, and looking at our budget. As we engaged in this LCAP survey, we had survey responses that were staff, students, parents, community members, and administrators. I'm going to kind of move quickly because I know it has been a long night already. The same continuous improvement cycle, just what I just talked about on the last slide, we'll kind of keep going. Here's our state and local priorities. We have, on the state side, we have those 8 priorities. They are requirement of the LCAP. And then on the right-hand side, we have the RUSD, or local priorities. And we ensure that all of these are within our LCAP, and that all of these are woven into each of our goals and present in our actions and services. Here are our 5 goals that we continue to focus on, aligned to the state priorities and the district priorities, just so it's clear and transparent which areas each goal is addressing. Now down to the nitty-gritty. We have our survey respondents, and we had 3,156 responses this year. And of those, 70% of those were students. Sorry, I'm trying to get my up on there. And we had 60% response rate for students. 48% of those were elementary and 52% were secondary, so pretty close. We had 397 parent responses. 65% of those came from elementary and 35% of those came from secondary. The measures that we report out in our LCAP, the first one has to do with caring and welcoming environments. And what you'll notice throughout these survey results that for the most part we stayed pretty stable. And there were a few places where we might have increased or some where we may have decreased just slightly. But overall, RUSD is staying stable as far as our students, staff, and community is concerned, and parents as well. So you have caring and welcoming environments, and how you read this graph would be that blue would be very well, and that green is well. So we look at that green and blue together, and what that means is that 87% of our elementary students who took the survey feel that RUSD makes students and staff feel cared for and welcomed either well or very well. So those are those positive numbers. Trusting relationships, you have the same type of graph, so you would read it the exact same way. And again, you see that we have staff, parents, and community talking about whether they feel that RUSD is developing trusting relationships among staff, families, and community members. This, again, slight decline in this slide in comparison to last year, but very minimal slight, just within a couple percentage points. Student safety. Also, there was a small decrease here across the board, whether students feel safe, whether parents feel like our students are safe, and whether staff feel. Actually, all 4 across the board had a slight decline. We had 82% of elementary students felt that they were safe, and last year it was 86. So a little less than 5% decline right there, and we kind of saw that. We did see secondary students, interestingly enough here, increase by 10%. So secondary students were feeling more safe, and I felt like 10% was kind of a significant number, so I really notated that in my notes each time to kind of call that out for you. You don't typically have secondary students feeling that way on a campus between, fights and different types of drills and lockdowns and all of those types of things. So I felt like that was a good celebration. Clean campuses. We saw an increase for our students feeling like we have clean campuses. Both elementary and secondary saw an increase, and parents and staff saw a decrease in comparison. But again, let's see, parents this year was at 76. And last year was at 94. So it was a pretty steep decrease for parents. And staff this year was a 76, and last year was an 88. So it's really interesting to see how students' perception, who are on campus all day, feel like it improved, and parents and staff felt like it declined. Well-maintained campuses, so not clean, but the buildings, playgrounds, and facilities are well-maintained. We saw a decrease slightly for elementary students. We saw an increase by 10% for secondary students. So again, a big jump for our secondary. Their perception is much more positive this year than it was last year. And then a decrease in parents and staff on well-maintained. As our buildings get older, we're probably going to see that no matter how hard we work at trying to keep them maintained. Family and community partnerships. Both of these had a slight decrease. How well does your school guide you to participate in decision-making opportunities? And some of this, we had a change in the question on the LCAP survey. We were provided a little more context and descriptor on how we do this. And so we actually anticipated it going up because we gave them examples of all the different ways that we provide this, but it actually, it went down. It was 78 for parents this year, and last year was 81. So again, less than 5% on both of them. Not super, but still a decrease. Our next steps in the LCAP process, we have our very first educational partner meeting on March 17th. We will review goals 3, 4, and 5, and survey results for 3, 4, and 5, and our educational partners will provide feedback for our actions and services, and then we'll meet on April 14th and go over goal 2, and April 28th and go over goal 1. And then finally we'll hit May, where we start to just review our draft. We start to meet with our union groups, we take it to DAC, we take it to DLAC. We have all those advisory groups meet, and the board will start receiving more frequent updates in the board update, because we have opted a couple years ago to not do a presentation every single month on this, but instead put it in the board update for you all. And then the forum will be May 28th, and then we'll bring the LCAP back on June 9th. Any questions?
Very thorough.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Faith, what do you think of the LCAP process? Were you engaged and involved, or was it one of those things that just didn't interest you? And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I am interested in our student perspective, to be honest with you.
I definitely was involved within the conversation. I noticed one thing that did stick out was like the clean campuses from students and parents' perspective, of like students that have been on campus all day and like some all night playing sports, doing band, clubs, all that stuff, like how they think that our campus is better versus parents who are only there for a little bit, they think it's worse. That was something that really stuck out to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Not for tonight, thank you.
Just thank you for spending all the time.
No problem.
And this is a big deal. This is our, basically our roadmap. You know, what do we want to do and how do we want to do it? Thank you. We're going to stick with Ed Services. Next item on the agenda is F6, which is approval of instructional materials for visual arts grades TK through 6.
Yes, governing board, tonight I will bring up Edie Chapman, teacher on assignment. And is Karen coming up with you yet or not yet? And
Good.
Karen, one of our TK6 elementary art teachers. They are here tonight to provide a presentation on their recommendation for board approval of the TK6 art materials. This is a discussion on possible action item, and the recommendation, once they're done with the presentation, would be to approve the materials.
Am I on? There we go. Thank you for this opportunity. One of the passions and passion projects I've been able to be involved in is getting our new Prop 28 implementation up and running, and this year working with our art teachers, our TK6 art teachers. Our other art teacher, Stephanie Miller, is unable to join us tonight. That deadly disease that's running around through the schools, running rampant, has taken her out. But she's here in spirit, and before I start, I just want to say that this is Karen Riedler. You were at what schools, Karen?
Mount Whitson, Barnett, and James Dukes, and I'm actually a little bit sick too, but I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll get it. It's okay. We're good. And then Stephanie Miller. And so these two amazing teachers, beginning brand new teachers, who are currently in the middle of internships and Stephanie is pursuing her credentialing in art, her art degree. Karen is pursuing credentialing, right? They're doing that on top of coming into a situation where they each teach all the kids at 3 different schools. All of the kids, TK through 6. Okay, and they do that on a rotating basis. They see every child every 2 weeks. So within 2 weeks, they will see every child at 3 different sites in a 45-minute art block. And they said yes to this, okay? They said yes to this. And so, and it's just been a joy to work with both of them and to encourage them and to get them up and running. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to just honor them in the work that they're doing publicly. Cannot say it enough. And also to present, what I'm here for tonight, is to present the materials that these 2 teachers are recommending for adoption for the TK6 art curriculum. So go ahead and forward. There we go. So the art curriculum, the focus of the art curriculum and the standards really align. What art now is a core class for grades TK through 6. We've always had art offered at 7 through 12 for the VAPA courses at the high school level and for developing and interest courses at the middle school level. But even though it's been seen to some degree as a core class in the past, art has not really, visual art in particular, has not really been seen as a core course similar to math or history or language arts and so forth. So with the passage of Prop 28 was made to rectify this and to provide monies, as you know, to the districts to make sure that art is being implemented K through 12, and then it was up to the districts to determine how they were going to implement the monies. Our district determined that we would implement the money, some of the site monies, for a visual arts program at TK6, and that's where Karen and Stephanie come in, and again, why we're here tonight. We all know the studies of how art is so critical to our students and their development as both students themselves academically and then as people. And so we also see here that the art process in the art curriculum is definitely aligned to our instructional focus, as we see here. All students construct learning through relevant and rigorous tasks that demonstrate standards-based. Everything in these arts classes is standards-based. Reading, speaking, writing, creating, and problem solving. And those last 2 is where art really comes in. So because we now have art, visual arts, at the elementary level, we now in Ramona Unified have artistic concepts that build coherently, the first bullet there, K through 12. Kids will arrive in middle and high school with some skills under their belts. In the arts classes, they are developing visual literacy and habits of mind, which are ways of thinking critically and creatively. Again, that's what these 2 teachers are doing with their students. Focus on development of skills and artistic literacy and appreciation. And that's really the focus of these classes. They don't get pre-made little kits that they make in art. They are learning skills, and they're developing their skills sequentially in the scope and sequence of the classes are definitely standards-based and moving from one grade level to the other. And then these courses, these art courses, are designed to develop creativity, critical thinking skills, and problem-solving abilities. After the students, work with and develop the skills, they develop their own projects using those skills and showcasing a concept that they're working with. So it is critical that we find, was that you? Okay, that's fine. It was critical that we find a program that would really meet the needs of our teachers and the workload that they have, and also meet the needs of the students for these sequential types of classes and courses. So, what did we do for this pilot? April of last year, I was looking at I looked at the state-approved curriculum, and we chose and worked with the 2 different curricula that are state-approved, and made arrangements for those to be piloted in the fall. It was a step of faith because at that point we did not have any teachers hired yet. In September of 2024, this school year, we piloted Art of Education. It's a 6-week pilot. Art of Education, and I hope that you've had some time to look at the materials that have been out in the lobby since May of last year, actually. Art of Education is a fully digital program. There are no printed texts or books at all in that. It's fully digital. It's like a big filing cabinet of everything you need for art. After 6 weeks, and we had periodic check-ins for that, and at the end of that we had a review and evaluated the curriculum based on a rubric that we are using that's aligned with the state requirements. After that, they went into Davis Art. Davis Art is a long-standing public publishing house for art. They do have print textbooks, but they are fully digital as well. They worked with our teachers to provide a set of textbooks. Each teacher got 1 grade level set of textbooks, and they chose 1 site where they would have those. You had 5th grade? Karen had 5th grade, Stephanie had a 3rd grade set of textbooks, and then they had full access to everything that is digital in the program. So everything in this program is also available online. So they piloted that for 6 weeks, and then at the end, before we went, well, it actually happened after Christmas break or winter break, we came together and we talked about, they evaluated Davis, looked at that, compared the 2, and decided that they would like to recommend Davis Art to the board for the curriculum to be fully adopted, and that's where we are now. So as with any pilot, there's a team that we need to have involved in this. So we have the 2 teachers and 3 administrators. It's Courtney Sawada, Chris Gunnett, and Debbie Long are involved in the leadership team for this, the curriculum leadership team. And then the pilot team were the 2 teachers. Often in a pilot you have a large group of teachers, but we only have 2. We had community and family engagement, the public announcement, the materials have been out there, as I said, for almost a year now. Those have been available. I also brought the materials to the DAC committee and presented those last year and then this year as well. And I have also met with all 6 elementary student site council, school site councils to present the materials, take them to the committees and talk about them. So it's been vetted by the different people in the district. Okay. Are there any questions yet? Nope.
Yes, are you going to be discussing the 9 aesthetics theories at that age, which I'm just curious.
I will let Karen answer that because she's the art expert
Because that's
and
like
I am not.
That's like the foundation
Are
of
you talking
why.
about the elements of art or the principles of design?
No, this is the
Tell
aesthetic
me.
theories, which is really the foundation of why you do art.
Educate me, sir.
Okay. I'll tell you what they are. Okay.
Google will tell you, Siri will tell you.
Actually,
I will be Googling it after
if you
this for
type
sure.
if you type in 9 aesthetic art theories, they pop right up.
Okay.
They used to have different names, but imitationalism, which is basically nature, so it's
Mhm.
like you're copying nature.
Right. Observational drawing.
Formalism, which is the principles and elements of design.
Okay.
Emotionalism, which is really
Expressionism, sure.
yeah, it's like expressionism.
Yeah.
Instrumentalism, which is really about using it as a tool.
Yeah.
It can be a basically the idea
Love
is to
it. Design. More design than
no,
art.
it's really about trying to teach another person. So you create artwork to teach somebody.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's another one which they now call aesthetic, constructivism. It used to be back in the 80s, this theory was called the Marxist theory, to be very honest. And the idea is to understand that art can be done in such a way to force the viewer to do something. They don't call it that anymore, they call it constructivism. And then the other one is deconstructivism, is literally to break down everything. So you take something like a building and it looks like a pile of rubble, but you can still use it as a building kind of idea. And then let's see here, then we have the other one was naturalism. So they kind of changed them around, but they all have the same meanings, but you know, it's politically correct now, all the titles. But if you type it in, I think it's really helpful because it really helps people to understand, why is this piece of art, why is it done like that?
Right, sure.
And then the kids can talk about that and to understand, like Uncle Sam, that would be considered the constructivism or the Marxist theory is being applied, because it's pointing at you, telling you to, like trying to force you to join the army, right?
So I totally want to do a poster creation like lesson that's just like you are having someone run for an office, right? But you would have to like make it something really abstract, like an animal, right? And then you would design for that animal to be running for office. And I mean, remember we're talking about elementary school here, right? So a lot of those things that you're mentioning, definitely, that's in our curriculum, no worries. But a lot of it, there's what you're saying is stuff we can spice, right? We can add those pieces in where there's gaps. And I am altering projects all the time. So for example, I wanted to get into clay, right, across the board for most of my classes soon. But Mount Woodson's not getting their clay fast enough. I'm like, oh gosh, I should have ordered more from the beginning. So what I did instead is I found a 3D modeling program where they could use the computer like a lump of clay. And I showed them today, 4th graders, how to do this. By the way, I did it with 6th grade at James Dukes too. And I have to say that the computer skills at Mount Woodson are really impressive. So whoever is like making sure they understand how to file save, like great job, because they're used to like Google platforms, right? So everything auto saves. For the concept of file save is just abstract unless you teach it. And I think that that's really interesting. So my background is actually more of like a graphic designer, right? That's where I got a lot of my, that's where I have my experience. Am I talking too much? Okay, sorry, bye.
Thank you. I know. And Karen is just amazing. It's like her brain just keeps creating things. And so are those embedded? Maybe to some degree, right? But we're working with elementary kids right now, so that's okay, Karen. It's okay.
Like I was saying, just like the principles and elements of art, oftentimes what happens is we forget the other theories, but they're all equal in understanding and value of art. So I recommend that you look that up. And then the other one, probably the biggest one that you're going to be doing is imitation. So we look at masters' works of art and we imitate them.
I don't actually like doing that.
But it is you learn from that and you start to understand.
Okay, you guys can have that conversation after the meeting. So we are, the reason that they chose Davis Art is for this. So go ahead and go one more slide over. So as I said, we evaluated both programs and so forth. Both programs were really very strong, and there were things that the teachers really liked about the Art of Education, the handouts, the sheer number of lessons, However, they found that that curriculum was very unwieldy and difficult to navigate. It was also difficult to find things that they needed, like differentiation and supports for students. The Davis program, in contrast to that, comes with, because it's print, typically it's print, so they have teachers' editions that walk them through it. It shows them, right there in the margins, the types of supports and such that you need. There were just beautifully developed lessons with excellent images to use as teaching slides that they are very good at taking and manipulating those to make their slides to lead their classes. Very easy access to the digital resources. There are ebooks with Davis. And then a couple of the final two things with Davis Art. First of all, the lessons were easily modified to fit their teaching schedule, because they can't be modified, these lessons, for the time frame that they have. And the Christmas present of it all is that Davis has a 35,000 image database of professionally photographed museum pieces. So the artwork, the sculpture, all of these things that is just, it's like, here, this is our gift to you, and they can go in and to access that. So it's just really a beautiful curriculum. In addition to that, the standards are there. It's aligned with California state standards. You see the sequencing. You see it from, if they've been working with it from kindergarten through grade 6, they see the sequencing of skills and the development of skills. So it's a very coherent program for everything that it offers. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. And here's some sample pages from Davis Art, and you can see what the TE's teachers editions look like and what they offer there. They have essential questions, all the very good pedagogy, the essential question to guide the production, the opening questions. They have little biographies of the artist's life and their work. It's a very comprehensive. So we'll go to the next one. And then here are the quotes. Students love learning about art and different techniques. You can see that from Stephanie Miller. The students love it. The students love the lessons. They enjoy what they're doing there, and the wealth of curricula that's available can be easily accessed by the teachers to develop lessons that are going to tie into the students' interests. Teachers love it. Have some quotes there for you. I have already summarized those. And at many of the school site councils I visited as well, the parents and teachers who were there were very impressed with the quality of the materials as well, and the sheer beauty of them. Art is beautiful, and to develop that aesthetic skill and appreciation for students is really critical. So they recommend Davis Art for adoption. Any questions?
When do we get the materials to review them?
The materials are out in the foyer.
No, it works different for us. They actually.
Last May.
I don't remember can't get anything.
Yes.
Can we get some for?
Yeah, I didn't receive anything at all. This
They
is like
were-
my forte, art.
I believe they
sorry.
were digital. It was one of those memos with a digital link to the materials, because the curriculum itself is not tangible. There's not books to the material. They're all digital. And they went out in the memo May 2024, both in, I believe, email and print form.
So what's in the hallway then?
A link, I believe, to the
hallway.
Leslie, two things. One of them is fully digital, and you were given the links to that last May with a board update, and when this came as an information item last May that we were going to be piloting this, that you got that on what we call in the office the green sheet. You got that. And you also had links to the Davis site where you could look at all of the materials there. So those are both available to you. There are books and materials. Davis does have books, and there are some sample books out in the hallway. They've been there, again, for quite a while. And there's also some materials there from Art of Education, which we are not recommending to adopt. But those are both available, the books. If you need books, I can get some more to you.
Just to clarify, so the way that you've talked about it, so it's already been piloted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
why I don't remember it was a year ago.
Yes, it was a long time ago.
That was a
It's like
long time ago.
Okay.
And we've slept quite a bit since then.
That's my confusion, because it's saying it didn't say adoption of the piloted materials, so I wasn't really sure what we were doing. So if we've already approved it, then I'm fine with moving forward with it.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, that's a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other further discussion or questions? You're ready to vote, aren't you, Dan? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you guys very much for coming tonight. Thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Riedler, Miss Riedler, sorry. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for your passion, and thank you for what you're doing for our kids. It's really nice for us to be able to offer this to every one of our students, and give our teachers that time to collaborate, build their lesson plans, grade papers, while you have their students. So it's a win-win. Hopefully we can get more on site. That's me. Thank you very much. Oh, it totally is. All right. But I'll try it because of her passion. All right, next item on the agenda is item F7, which is the approval of instructional materials for creative writing at Ramona High School.
Okay, this is the last one. I feel like it's been at Services Show tonight. So the board received these materials in January 2024 originally. Yes, fantastic.
I had a bunch of questions.
Yes. So we're bringing back Writing Fiction 10th edition and Tell It Slant 3rd edition. This was not the first materials that the creative writing class piloted. I think they had started with a different one and then went on to this one, if I remember correctly. But we do a lot of pilots in Ramona Unified for all of our different courses. We're bringing these back. They've gone through all of the pilot process and have been in the hallway and on the instructional materials feedback. And this is a discussion, possible action with the approval for the books as presented.
Any questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question. What grade is it for? I didn't see it anywhere. What grade?
Creative writing is the course that was approved. I think it was for 12th grade, right?
And writing fiction?
They're both for the creative writing class, so they're both 12th grade.
Thank you.
Yes.
How was it received?
By whom?
By the kids. You piloted it. I mean, I just look at the
We
front
have
of
the
the book.
creative writing teacher in the back. I'm gonna lean on her. That's why we have them come when we bring it forward.
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight and welcome.
Thank you. So we have a variety of different things that we do with creative writing, and we do teach both nonfiction and fiction because you can write creatively in both of those things, which is why we went with 2 different books. And so we did not go all the way through both of these. They're both far too dense for that, but we did use excerpts from each of them, and we are still using excerpts from them to build the talents and skills to be able to write creatively with like a basic toolbox of, hey, what is plot, what are characters, how can you build those, how can you make them realistic, and then how can you do that with people in your own life when you're writing a memoir, because you're going to have a version of your mom in your memoir, you're not going to have your actual mom. You can't do that because you're not her, right? And so we talk about all those different things, and the pieces that we've used from these texts have gone over well. They've been effective. The students seem to be learning from them. Right now we're doing whole class workshops, and they're using the skills that they have gotten from reading out of both of these in order to construct texts that they are then sharing with their peers and critiquing. So it has worked well so far for me as a teacher, and the kids seem to enjoy them.
I was just curious. Because when you look at the front of the book, it's not exactly that entertaining, but it's the content inside, so I just wanted to know.
Good?
That's it.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a
Are we there
motion?
yet?
We've got a motion. Do we have a
Yes, thank
second?
you.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion in case? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Passes unanimously. Leslie, you're done. Next item on the agenda is item H4, which is presentation and approval, potential approval of the second interim report.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me here tonight to present to you the 24-25 second interim. Thank you, Sean. I have a copy of the slide deck for you all, as well as what we will be presenting on the screen here in just a moment. You know what? It's a PDF. Oh, I guess it
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for staying.
We will go ahead and just do it this way. All right, so tonight's presentation will go ahead and cover, I'm going to provide you all with an enrollment update as of February 28th in comparison to where we were at Census Day, which was the first Wednesday in October. I will provide you a summary of the other funds. That's everything beyond the general fund, as well as a general fund summary, the assumptions used for the multi-year projection, as well as the multi-year projection, and we'll close with a little bit of insight on the road ahead and what's expected here soon coming up, and kind of what we're looking at going forward. So if you want to go with me to slide 3 in your packet, this provides the history of enrollment in the district from 21-22, so post-COVID, as well as to today, and what we are projecting going forward. For 24-25 Census Day, we had 4,949 students throughout the district, and unfortunately, we have dropped since then, and as of February 28th, we are now at 4,906 students. It varies every week throughout the year. However, I did think that, there is a significant drop in students, and I wanted to just make sure that you all were aware of that, as it does tend to happen throughout the year that enrollment tends to drop later in the year. But it is 43 students, and hopefully we will be getting more of those here soon. So, do you have any questions on this?
We should
Sorry,
advertise.
I know you saw me laughing. I just heard Sean's bag rustling, and it's like, is he going for the chicken feed? Or what?
Maybe. I'm about to go look for the chicken feed. I didn't have dinner. So, all right. Well, I was glad it's nothing with the presentation, because I was trying to gauge.
Not laughing about enrollment numbers, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate trend, but I'm hoping that with registration opening for next year as of April 1st, that we will hopefully see some promising numbers, especially by way of TK and kindergarten registrations coming forth, and hopefully we'll see some increases.
And have you talked to other districts about declining enrollment? Because declining enrollment is becoming a thing all throughout San Diego.
It is. It's actually, it's statewide. It really is. I mean, a lot of California residents are moving out of state, and there are a lot of people moving out of San Diego County in particular. We have one of the highest costs of living, and that tends to be one of the things that is causing folks to move.
We could put a sign up that says houses are cheaper in Ramona.
Yes, we could. And hopefully people would come. So if you want to move to slide 4 in the packet, the 24-25 summary of other funds, there was very few changes to the other funds for second interim. However, there was a bit of modifications with Fund 13, which is the Food and Nutrition Fund. Some of the revenue estimates were refined a little bit, as well as expenditures, so that their overall ending fund balance increased slightly, but it was relatively immaterial, the amount of the fund that changed. But as you can see, Fund 8 is our ASB fund. That's the fund where we record all of the transactions for the ASBs at all of the school sites. Fund 11 is strictly for adult ed. And Fund 13, as I said, is the Food and Nutrition Fund. Fund 17 is our Special Reserve Fund, and that is where we have our stabilization fund. So if there was ever a really gross need for funds because of a huge deficit where we wouldn't meet our minimum 5% or something like that, that's when we would utilize those funds. Fund 25 has the funds for developer fees and the fees we receive for building projects in the community. Fund 40 is for capital outlay projects. And Fund 67 is a very small self-insurance fund that has little to no activity. And I believe this is from back in the day when we were self-insured, which we are no longer self-insured. So I'm going to be looking into seeing if this fund can actually be closed and have these these funds that are sitting in this funds and fund, have them transferred to Fund 1. That was a lot of funds. And so that's my hope. I'm going to be reaching out to the County Office of Ed and getting a little bit of more information about the self-insurance fund and
So what's
seeing.
Fund 1, pardon me?
Fund 1 is our general fund.
Okay, that's what
That's
I
the
thought.
main fund that, that we talk about every time when we're in these meetings, and what by far and large is the basis of all of our operations.
So just to be clear, those would be one-time funds going into general fund, correct?
Yes,
Those are
that
not
is
recurring.
correct.
Okay,
That is one-time funds.
thank
And
you.
it would just be closing of this fund out. All right, so if you would like to move to slide 5, this is the general fund summary for second interim. And there has been some changes here in regards to what was presented at first interim. I would like to call attention to specifically lines 12 and 13 with regards to classified salaries and employee benefits. The finance department is working on changing position control systems that we use for budgeting. And in doing so, there was some validation checks of data and calculations and making sure that the new system would be doing what it's supposed to in regards to the output for budgeting and everything. And when we were verifying data, it was uncovered that the current existing system we were using was budgeting classified salaries for 9.5 month, 10 month, and 11 month employees as 12 month employee salaries. So it was basically taking it and calculating it as if it was for an entire 12 months of pay. So we made changes to that and that adjusted the unrestricted and restricted classified salaries as well as fringe benefits, because with the base salaries, that then adjusts what fringes are on top of those base salaries. And these numbers are reduced because they were inflated. So I really wanted to call attention to that and let you guys know, we had spoken about that previously, but I really want you to know that those corrections are in the second interim. And in addition to that is the adjustment to the LCFF revenues, and that was for the audit adjustment that was in the audit report that was approved in January for the unduplicated pupil count from the finding for 23-24. That is incorporated into the unrestricted portion of line 3 on this page. And lastly, I just wanted to also comment that there was some movement and adjustments to certificated salaries. We also reviewed vacant positions, both classified and certificated, and reduced what may still be open, and also adjusted that based on what we are also contracting with for contractors. For instance, the special ed services that we absolutely have to provide, and if we can't hire, we then have to contract with a service provider to provide those services to students. So there is quite a few changes here, but I wanted to make sure that I called out pretty much the overarching reasons for the adjustments to the budget for second interim. Those are the heavy hitters.
Can you explain why, like, we'll just say line item 12, because it's like on every single one of them, why there's an unrestricted part and a restricted part?
Of course.
Explain why it's that way.
Absolutely. The restricted funds pertain to the, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't been advancing the slides. I beg your pardon.
It's okay,
We've got it, yeah.
We have it in front of us.
I'm on slide
I don't
5.
think there's anybody out there who was following it.
Well, it may be somebody online, so I apologize for that. Yes, it is on slide 5 that we are discussing. I apologize for that. So the restricted funds are all of the restricted funding sources that we receive funds for. That's special ed, that is Title I, Title II, Title III, any restricted categorical funding that the district receives is recognized in the restricted side of the general fund, Fund 1. Then the unrestricted side is basically where we have a lot of the discretionary funding, or the LCFF funding by far and large is on the unrestricted side of the general fund budget. But typically, as a whole, you look at the general fund together. So you have your unrestricted and your restricted side, and then you look at it as a whole, because that makes up 90% of all costs that the district incurs in a year. And as well, and it also incorporates almost all of the revenue the district receives in a year as well. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it's just, I was just curious because I guess it kind of made sense. It's salaries. I guess it could all be restricted if you wanted it to be, or it could all be.
It all depends on funding.
Right.
It really does. And what that funding can be used for, and the purposes for which it's allowed. Okay? So moving along to slide 6, I will now advance the slide so that I don't forget.
Or before you go on, I just have a quick
yes.
question. I apologize. I think it's important to point out that the complication that you talked about with classified employees was an accounting error on paper. We did not overpay any employees, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that attention to that. So what it was is, it was a budgeting error. We were basically saying we anticipated to spend more on salaries and benefits for classified folks than what we would have actually done. So if it hadn't been noticed and it hadn't been changed, there would have been basically a large discrepancy between what we've budgeted and what we've spent at the end of the year. But absolutely, everybody's been paid correctly.
Thank you.
And we definitely wanted to incorporate the correction as soon as it was found at the next reporting period, because, we want to make sure that we are budgeting appropriately.
Of course, thank you.
100%. So, great question. Moving on to slide 6, this is basically taking those details that were on the last slide and totaling up the revenues and expenditures on line 2 and 3. And you can see on line 4 that the unrestricted and restricted sides of the general fund are reflective of, we are spending more than we are receiving in for the year. That's what we are anticipated to do. So what that's going to do is then, because we have more expenditures than we do revenues, that then we rely on our beginning fund balance to make up the difference, and therefore that reflects what is on line 6 for the ending fund balances for both sides of the general fund. So we will be ending the year, we're anticipating with $15 million in the unrestricted side of the general fund and $7.4 million on the restricted side. And then taking those ending fund balances, we then have commitments. And so the restricted side, that component of ending fund balance is restricted 100%. So basically it can't be used for anything but the purposes for which the funds were given. So that ending fund balance will always be restricted because those are restricted funding sources. On the unrestricted side of the general fund, we have on line 13, we have $17,000 set aside. That is for the revolving cash fund. So basically, that's for us to be able to cut any checks here in-house if there's an absolute urgent need, or we use it for reimbursements for employees, for discretionary purposes or travel, and it gets replenished throughout the year at regular intervals. Line 14 is 3%. And that is 3% of the total budgeted expenditures. So if you took the sum of the unrestricted and restricted amounts in line 3 and you times it by 3%, that gives you the $2.6 million in line 14. And if you did the same exact calculation, but then did it for 2%, that is what is reflected in line 15, and that's the increase for the board required 5% minimum reserve.
Is there a threshold on how much you can set aside? For example, is there a cap? Like, what if a district decided, oh, we want to set aside 20%? I just want to understand how that
this
works.
Year, the cap on reserves is not in place based on the state's economic conditions, but a couple years ago, I can't remember exactly what year it went into place, but there is a cap. And and based on certain economic triggers at the state level, that triggers whether or not we have reserve cap limits. And this year we don't, but we, and you'll see on the next slide when I get to the multi-year projection, it'll show you those percentages of what's available in our reserves.
I'm not suggesting changing anything. It's just I was talking to another person in a different district, and their district has a $120 million reserve.
They might be basic aid, and if they are a basic aid district, they there is no cap on reserves because property tax, they're funded with property taxes and not LCFF revenues. So their revenues can fluctuate every year, so they aren't held to that same reserve restrictions. And it also could be to the size of their district.
Yeah, we have about 40 schools.
Well, that's those. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty huge percentage.
Well, and I know of cities that their city councils set their policy for reserves, and their 10 is healthy, 10% is healthy. Some have gazillions set aside in reserves. It's a term. Some have way more than they will ever use, but that's their comfort level of their policymakers.
Like the city of Santa Monica.
They just spent about 35 million of it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But some other cities, and I don't want to call them out, but they've got close to $1 billion in reserves.
Oh, wow.
With a B.
So if I could wrap up talking about our commitments really quick, the amount shown on line 16, the $8.9 million, it is broken down to the right on that table, and I just wanted to call your attention to that. So line 2 is for future COP payments. That's $2.5 million. That's roughly what 1 year's payment is equates to. Line 3 is for textbook adoption. We have textbook adoptions expected for the next 3 years where we will utilize those funds, and those will end up being fully depleted in 3 years. Typically, the facilities improvements has been $1.5 million. I've raised that here at second interim to $2 million due to the fact that we have numerous facility needs, some of which became apparent during the last board meeting here in this building. It's one building that we would hopefully like to address in line with the priorities of all the other school sites. But there's, to a varying degrees throughout the district, there are numerous facility needs that need to be addressed. So I raised that from 1.5 to $2 million. Number 5 is compensated absences. This is for classified and management employee vacation balances. As we've discussed previously, we have a very large liability, a combined liability for all of the classified vacations as well as the management. And efforts are being made to reduce that by having folks take vacation when when they are able. Thank you. Okay. Better. It was getting fuzzy, wasn't it? So yes, we are going to keep that, and I will definitely be looking at that at year end to see what efforts have, what movement we've made based on the efforts that we are taking right now. Line 6 is the medical benefit plan year realignment. This is an anomaly year where we switched our plan year start date, and we've had a 9-month plan year instead of the typical 12-month. And beginning July 1st, we're going to be back to that 12-month plan year. Again, this is just an anomaly year, but it will be great to have our plan year rates on the same year as our fiscal year, because otherwise you're having one rate for 6 months and then another rate for the other 6 months of your fiscal year, and it can be really problematic, especially when we're trying to budget as well as staff are trying to budget, because it's a percentage of your, of the cost. And lastly, we have number 7, $300,000 for the electric battery replacement. So the combination of all of those commitments is the $8.9 million. And if you were to take all of the commitments from in the unrestricted general fund from the ending fund balance, that leaves an unassigned amount of $1.7 million. Line 18 there. Is there any questions before I go on to the next slide? Okay. So the next slide is the, sorry here. I don't know what happened there. We're moving to page 7, Sean. Can you right size that for me? Thank you. Okay, so this is the multi-year projection assumptions, and some of the items have changed since first interim, and they are in bold, and I wanted to really call out line 2. So with the governor's budget proposal for years 25, 26, the COLA for that year and out years changed. It was from the enacted budget at for 24-25, it was initially 2.93% for 25-26, and the newest number that we were provided by Governor Newsom is 2.43%. So it went down by 0.5%. So we update our LCFF projections based on these new numbers. We also did some modifications to what we were using for the average daily attendance amount, the counts for students, based on how we are trending so far this year. So we just wanted to be able to give you guys this information. You could see exactly what we use when we're developing our multi-year projection going forward. Are there any questions? All right, if I will go ahead and go to slide 8 now. And this is the multi-year projection. So we are required to look at what our budget is for the current year as well as 2 years out, and what we use those revised assumptions on the previous slide. So as you can see, the column for fiscal year 24-25 matches what you saw in detail for on the other slides, where we have an unassigned balance for 24-25 of $1.7 million, and the total available general fund reserves by percent is 6.97%. That is at the that's on line 20, and you can see going out into the future years, though that number stays right at about 6%, which is just a smidge above what we have as our board approved 5%, and that's the available reserves. And as you can see in 26-27, we are still having a need for budget reductions to help address our deficit spending. And so there's still a $2 million budget reduction in 26-27, and as well as a transfer in of $500,000 from Fund 17. Is there any questions? Okay. I wish I had a better outlook there, and as things change, we will be happy to update this based on that. And just wanted to let you all know, with regards to the road ahead, there's some uncertainty about things right now, but we don't really know with the new political climate what exactly is going to happen to some things. I guess that's just kind of putting it, there's just there's quite a bit of uncertainty right now. But the promising things is that the state's big three revenues, so that's income tax, sales and use tax, and property taxes, those are the big three funding sources for what we receive from the state. Those revenue receipts are overall up from projections. However, in January, the receipts were less. That's the most recent number that we've gotten from the state, but in the aggregate amount, overall it's up, so that's good, and hopefully it'll stay that way. What is of concern, though, is the impact of the LA County fires. I know we all went to the Budget Perspectives workshop that was put on by, oh gosh, I'm losing. Yes, Capital Advisors Group, thank you, that they put on, and they were discussing some of those possible potential impacts. And with the state and federal governments deferring income tax receipts and filings for LA County, that's 20% of the overall receipts for the state. There's just a lot of unknowns right now, and those won't really come to fruition until October, which means we won't really know much of anything until early December. There's the Federal Department of Education. We're not really sure what's going to be happening with that and the possible impacts that may pose. I don't believe federal funding is going away, but how it's going to be operated and to the extent of delays or anything like that, we don't know the impacts. That's still unknown. And lastly, right now there's talk about a possible government shutdown because they can't pass a budget, and there's going to be discussions on that coming here soon. But if there's a stalemate, that'll cause a potential shutdown of the federal government for an unknown amount of time until they have an agreement. So we've got a beautiful picture there. We just don't quite know what's around the curve. But I wanted to show us, we've got a, we've got a beautiful picture there, and we're very hopeful for what's to come. So, are there any questions?
Yes, you gave us a replacement for the second interim. What was the change?
That's a great question. There was some slight adjustments between what I had initially had in the commitments as well as what was reflected in the initial SACS document. There was just a bit of a discrepancy between the numbers that Daniel had finalized in SACS and the numbers that I used to do the calculations for. So we had to make sure that we had everything correct, and the 2% and the 3% were just slightly off in the SACS document. So I really apologize for that, but I didn't want you to get anything that was inaccurate and didn't reflect what, one, it absolutely should be, because they were under by very slight amounts, and I wanted it to match perfectly with what we present, as well as, it has to match what's in the resolution, and everything needs to be accurate across the board. And I just saw they were very immaterial discrepancies, but in preparing the slide deck is when I caught those changes. So I'm very sorry about that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I see that you included in the figure out there, 26, 27.
Yes.
On line 3, the transport for fund 17, 700,000. I don't remember seeing that on a multi-year projection before. Is there something I just don't remember?
It actually has been there.
I do remember.
Yes, yes, it has been.
Is there a reason we're doing that?
Um,
And who would make the decision in the end about that?
That's a great question. In past, we were short, and actually, it's great that you brought that up, because we are over by 1.01% of the 5%. That possibly could have been augmented to get that exactly to 5%. So I apologize for not catching that, but that would be something that I believe we would have to talk about, and when we have you approve the budget for that year, you would see that transfer in from that Fund 17 and have to approve that in the budget.
So that would be in June of 26 that would happen for the 26, 27 year?
Yes. Absolutely. You're welcome.
Anybody else? All right, I'll go. Tori, if we refer to slide 8.
Yes.
When we talk about ending fund balance, that's, I guess I want to form this in, is that a typical budgetary process for school districts to rely on fund balance to start the following year?
Yes. It's kind of like a checkbook, in that you always have a beginning balance at the beginning of every month, and you have an ending balance at the end of every month.
So it's part of our budgetary process, and it's not like it's extra money that we have that we could
No.
go out and spend on new carpet or new
Exactly.
wall
You
covers or
want to
whatever.
be very careful with making sure that you're not spending more than what you're bringing in every year, year after year, because at some point, you're going to deplete your fund balance, and then what are you going to do?
So without that rollover, we are in deficit spending.
Yes, absolutely. And that's reflective in line 6.
Yeah, and that has been the case for the entire time I've been on this board, probably since Roger's been on this board, is that is basically part of your funding for the future year, part of the money that you rely on to keep the lights on.
And some of that is attributable to, yes, you're right. And some of that is attributable to the fact that there's sometimes multi-year grants in restricted or unrestricted funding that, or the term of funding it spans multiple years, or you're planning for things out in certain years and it's not necessarily in your current year. It could be made up of a number of different things, carryovers, that of discretionary funds that are allocated for certain purposes or to certain sites and departments for their spending abilities, and they may have plans and intentions with those funds in maybe not necessarily in the current year. There's a lot of reasons why you can have funds in your beginning fund balance and ending fund balance. But you really want to be mindful of how much you're overspending every year and how that is going to impact your future years. That's why it's so important that, or the state requires us to look out in future years and just not the current year that we're in, because they want us to be good stewards of the state's funds and to make sure that we are doing things appropriately and that we're going to be fiscally solvent.
But to the layperson, they could easily see that and go, oh, those are extra dollars that they didn't spend last year, we can spend them this year. When in reality, that's part of the budgetary process, and that that end fund balance is part of the budget. For those projections are going to be built into the budget, the projected budget for the following year. And not a lot of people do that in their personal funding, and not a lot of other governmental agencies have that end fund balance. They want to zero out at the end of the year and start fresh. So I think it's an important nuance to specific to school funding. Is there anything else for Tori on this? This is an action item.
It is.
So I will entertain a motion if there is one. Got a motion?
second.
And a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There's not anybody left in the audience, but if for those at home who are still watching, I'd like to invite them to reach out to the superintendent if they have any questions about this budget. I'd also like to invite our labor unions to come sit with staff, or even our employees, to come make an appointment with staff and go through this. This is as transparent as we can make it, and there are no hidden dollars in this document. And we'll sit there and we'll answer the hard questions. Brian will sit there, Brian and staff will sit there and answer the hard questions, and we welcome scrutiny. Because if we're not doing it right, the important part is that we do it right. So for those who have interest or a desire, please reach out to the superintendent and set that up. And I'll probably be following that up with an email to the heads of the two unions.
Sounds good.
Please, come look. We welcome another set of eyes on this, and we'll explain it to them, just like this end fund balance thing. Guys, this is typical school district funding. We're not outside the norm. This is how it's done according to sound government school finances. So, sorry for that, but I wanted to get that out there. Next item on the agenda is item H5, which is approval of resolution 2024-2025-13 to update committed fund balances in accordance with Government Accounting Standards Board Statement 54 and Board Policy 3100.
Governing Board, based on the information presented in the second interim report, the district recommends that the board approve resolution number 2024-2025-13 as presented.
I move approval as presented.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item H6, which is the approval of acceptance of gifts.
Thank you, President Drum. It is recommended that the board accept the generous donations made to the district, one for the Thrive program for materials at Barnett Elementary, and another for classroom materials for Miss, I'm going to butcher this, Scahan at James Dukes.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any conversation or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item H7, which is the approval of acceptance of grants.
Thank you, President Drum. Governing Board, we request approval to accept the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative School-Linked Partnership and Capacity Building Grant. This grant, totaling $329,710.76, was awarded by the California Department of Health Care Services, known as DHCS, in partnership with the San Diego County Office of Education, and will be overseen by the MTSS department here at Ramona Unified.
Any questions for staff?
Are all school districts getting this grant to do the same work?
Yes. Yes. I don't know of any that aren't.
Can you define the work?
Yes, actually, I will. I'll try to the best of my ability since I'm not Carrie, but I will happily explain. So this capacity building grant is to help allow Ramona Unified and other districts throughout the state to be able to bill private health care insurance companies for the some of the mental health services that our ed counselors are providing to students already. Kind of like how we bill Medi-Cal for services provided to students. We can receive some state reimbursements for those services that we provide for students that are Medi-Cal eligible. This is very much the same type of thing in that we're already providing these services to students. We will now be able to start billing private healthcare organizations for those services and receiving reimbursements for the services that we're
So
providing.
it's reimbursement to the district for health care provided to our students.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is a lot of money. A lot of money. What is the break-even point for our district in spending this much money with the income we anticipate recovering?
Well, we're already spending district funds on ed counselors and funding them through various funding sources. It is our hope to then be able to, once some of those funding sources are temporary, and once those funding sources are depleted, utilizing the receipts from the services that are being billed out to continue those services ongoing, and to basically free up what may have been, if it would have hit the unrestricted general fund, be able to possibly allocate those dollars elsewhere in the event that we receive more funding than what we have potential to receive more funding than what it's costing us, but that won't be for a while. This is just to get it up off the ground and to build that capacity.
So I see that the term of the agreement, today's date through June 30th of 2027, so a little over 2 years for this $300,000.
Yes.
$329,000. When this contract term ends, this is capacity building, so whatever we've implemented then becomes ours. It doesn't cost us anything more, and we continue using this process?
Yes.
This 2-year time is just to implement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no other questions. I'll entertain a motion if there is one.
I'll move approval of acceptance of this grant.
Got a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, you and Leslie had quite a bit tonight. Nicely done, thank you guys very much. We'll move on to next item is I1, which is selection of the CSBA Delegate Assembly. This is yours, Dr. Thurman.
Yes, thank you, President Drum, members of the board. We have before you this year's delegate representatives that are running to be a delegate with California School Boards Association. There has been their kind of personal information, filling out a form to apply for this position that you've been able to see. There are 2 support letters in the very back from 2 different school districts. And most importantly for tonight, there is a ballot on, count the green sheet is 1, 2, 3, 4 pages in. Please feel free to rip that out and to make your notation. We do this election right here and now tonight, but you can pull that out, check off the 6 that you would be voting for, up to 6 I should say, and then you'll pass that down to Roger, and Roger will tally them.
I don't have that form.
And I'll send it to you if you just do a tally.
I can do it on this one.
Yeah, that'll work. Roger will do a tally, and then we have a final ballot that we fill out with our board's preferences on who we would be recommending, and that gets sent in right away. So it's probably easiest just to pull that ballot right out and make your choice. There's nine different candidates available. Here, use this one.
Okay, Brian has one you can use.
So, are you done?
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Don, since you sit on this board,
Right.
I would ask you for some
Sure.
guidance.
I know most of these people, not the new ones, but the existing delegates, and I am still a current delegate. My term is not over at this time, so it's alternating every year. New ones are on. In this particular case, Barbara Avalos from National would be a returning delegate. She's been off for a little while, but she is very, very good. Barbara Ryan from Santee is legendary, and the wisdom she provides is invaluable. Like, I just can't even express how much I respect her and rely on her for information. And then Cipriano Vargas in Vista is extremely, extremely active and a very good leader and advocate for TK-12 education in California. I don't know Bob Weller from Escondido, but I do like the idea of Escondido participating with a delegate. They have not had representation in several years that I can think of. And I know there was a write-in candidate. I don't know anything about that write-in. So for me, I would be marking Barbara Avalos, Barbara Ryan, Cipriano Vargas, and probably Bob Weller as my own personal choices. But if you have questions about others, I'd certainly be happy to chat about the ones I know.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on the board who has a suggestion for your colleagues?
Well, I personally do know Bob Weller, and I would recommend him. He's very enthusiastic and very knowledgeable.
Okay. Other than the 4 who we've previously discussed, is there anybody who anybody would like to recommend?
I'm comfortable just recommending 4. I know we can do up to 6.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think the others might do a good job, but obviously you heard me mention Cipriano Vargas from Vista, and you see 2 other Vista names on here. I don't think that's the best way to distribute these positions. So I like to see it going out to a variety of districts spanning the entire county and different sorts of districts. TK-12 like us, unified, or union districts that are, high school or elementary only, like that. Diversity in the type of district, the geography, the demography. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then based on our decision, what would constitute moving them from our individual ballots to our collective ballot?
So typically we would make our selections individually here, and we're having a conversation, and then we will pass these to you or Roger, and one of you can tally,
That's what I'm doing.
and then we can have a little conversation and decide,
So if somebody
the
gets
first
one vote.
recommendation is on the tally marks, right?
Yeah,
Bring them on over.
Send them down.
Yeah.
And then if there's, somebody who gets one vote, I guess we can then decide whether we want to
consensus
move them over.
about, which names we move forward. It may not be 6, it might be, right?
But you kind of had your opportunity to speak up. I'm like, please tell us if you got somebody you want to. That's not
I
me.
am not,
Is that a write-in?
that is a write-in that I saw as I went through the work in detail.
Is that a?
I am
oh, I
not
see.
endorsing
That's not a
that
suggestion.
write-in.
Okay.
Got it? Okay, done.
Okay.
All right, Roger, what are the findings?
Well, it looks like we have 4 people.
Okay, here's the ballot. Take care of business, sir.
That was easy.
Thank you very much. Everybody comfortable moving on?
Do you want to read out the 4? Just
There you go.
For the
Are we
record?
supposed to use ink on this? Because I only have a pencil. Okay,
Just for the record, so we know what we're doing here.
I'll just go over my pencil.
Who are our selected choices, Roger?
Barbara Avalos from National San Diego, Barbara Ryan from Santee, San Diego, and I don't know how to say this.
Cipriano?
Cipriano?
Yes.
Cipriano Vargas from Vista Unified School District, and Bob Weller from Escondido Union High School District.
Everybody comfortable with that? Speak now. Very hold your peace. All right.
Well, we never really know who they are. Only Don knows who they are.
Well, some
And I'm
of you might,
comfortable.
you might know some of these people
I do know
also.
Cipriano too.
Yeah.
I can't say I would vote for him.
Yeah, so this is an action item. Can someone put this in the form of a motion for me?
I've moved those 4 names forward as our selection for delegate assembly.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving right along.
And just my endorsement of these people doesn't mean that I agree with them necessarily politically. It does mean that I think they are good representatives of districts in the Region 17 area, and good leaders. They
And I would
listen.
argue that that's, the way you just put it, makes it more important than agreement politically.
Yeah.
You
it's-
know?
Yeah, Thank you.
Do they put schools and the needs of kids first?
exactly.
Who cares what the rest of their politics are?
That's my criteria.
Great, thank you. All right, I2 is the next item on the agenda. It's the superintendent's report.
All right, well, I'm going to make this brief. We've got some time off coming up for staff. I'll encourage classified staff to make use of that time. This is a time of year when stress increases, sometimes exponentially. I was talking to Corey today about yearbook deadlines, and she was pulling her hair out. Just all the athletics, all the seniors getting ready for college acceptance letters and what they're doing after college. Parents trying to figure out childcare. There's just stressors everywhere. So really want to encourage our staff in the coming months, especially around spring break, to just consider their plan for rest and how they're going to be taking care of themselves and their families, whether that's rest in the form of recreation, sometimes sleep, engaging in our own personal communities. I'd like to just challenge every employee to explore something called leadership stillness, which I just recently heard. Heard this from a retired superintendent named Greg Pletko. And as I looked into that more, this stillness is kind of defined as a deliberate choice to cultivate inner peace and mindfulness. It can look like taking moments to pause, to breathe, to quiet the inner chatter of our minds. The benefits of stillness include increased clarity, reduced stress and anxiety, overall enjoyment of the time spent during stillness. I went on a random walk on Saturday at the beach, had a million things to do, but just took some time to get out and go on a walk. As you know, we're in between houses, between my mother-in-law and our house on a remodel, and it was just a really good time. I've never done that before, just by myself. I had no agenda, no destination, no one went with me, just by myself. And I kept going over what I had to do that day, but eventually in the walk, I could just look around me, appreciate things. I took pictures, and which I never do on my own. So just was something that was meaningful for me, and I wanted to just help stress all of our community to make sure they're taking time for that and their families, because it just means we come back better able to serve our community, especially during these intense times. So, thank you.
Board member report. We'll start with you, Maya.
Well, I just wanted to elaborate some more about what I was talking about before, because before it was very fragmented. So I will use my time right now. So, as I said before, ethnic studies will become operative only upon appropriation of funds. Currently, the requirement is not triggered, as no funding for the mandate has been included in the proposed state budget for the upcoming year. Therefore, while the legislative framework exists, the financial resources to implement the requirement are not yet in place, and we did hear it during the Capital Advisors budget workshop in January. And so, hearing that, I did submit a formal request about a month ago to place an action agenda item in February for our meeting to eliminate graduation requirements for ethnic studies in Ramona Unified School District until the California legislature assigns funding. And I did look up what's the proper way to do it. So I looked at our bylaws, which says any board member may place an item on the agenda for board consideration. Our governance protocol does say that a board member may request to place an item on the agenda. So I did hear Darren did say, and I did appreciate he checked with every board member for the opinion, and he did respond to me that if there is a will of the board, we may place it in later months. But that's not how I understand our bylaws. But without this state funding, San Diego voted to make it optional. It was brought to the agenda by their superintendent. Also, based on lack of funding, Coronado just a couple of weeks ago made it also optional. This was brought to the board or to the district to do that by their director of education services. We did receive feedback for our proposed Unit 1, and the feedback was two analyses submitted actually by two minorities that do belong to the core 4 as outlined at our Unit 1. So the analyses were done by Californians for Equal Rights Foundation and Alliance for Constructive Ethnic Studies. But since my concern is, since ethnic studies are no longer mandatory, I would like to keep our English 2 as well and make ethnic studies optional if we can, because I looked at the curriculum for English 2, and it looks like if we replace it with ethnic studies, we will get rid of Edgar Poe, we'll get rid of Julio Cortázar, Franz Kafka, Kurt Vonnegut, Maya Angelou, inaugural address by John Kennedy, Guy de Maupassant, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Helen Keller, Sophocles, Jose Luis Borges, Herbert Wells, and numerous ethnic authors, as many pieces were translated from foreign languages. So there's something else I saw in that unit. For example, on the front page it said "we before me." It struck me as actually I saw it as a very totalitarian concept. But since it was brought up in Unit 1, I would suggest to incorporate in the curriculum the stories "We" by Zamyatin, "Anthem" by Ayn Rand, and Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. These are the dystopian novels describing dehumanizing, degrading, and destructive effects of the collective we on society. They will give you goosebumps. Another material that was linked in the Unit 1 was actually for history and social sciences. Also, I struggle with this conflict that Unit 1 creates between state requirements and federal requirements. For example, the curriculum focuses on Core 4 and excludes Europeans and all white people from the ethnic studies course. I wonder, is it a violation of existing laws that prohibit discrimination or preferential treatment in public schools, including on the basis of race and ethnicity? Is it a violation of the President's executive order that it's called Ending Racial Indoctrination in K-12 schooling? My concern is that the order requires eliminating federal funding or support for illegal and discriminatory treatment and indoctrination in K-12 schools, including based on gender ideology and discriminatory equity ideology. So equity is all over Unit 1, and also is gender identity and gender ideology as well. Makes me worried that our district may be at risk of losing federal funding if we proceed with implementing the curriculum as presented to us. Also, I was wondering if it violates the President's executive order that's called Ending Racial and Wasteful Government, DEI programs and preferencing, and it orders the termination of DEI diversity, equity and inclusion, mandates, policies, programs, preferences and activities. Those are 3 words that are integral components of Ramona Ethnic Studies curriculum. That's what I read, for example, in unit academic language, which is ripe with DEI, CRT, and Marxist terms. I understand that we have to comply with California state law, which often contradicts the federal law on these issues, although federal law supersedes this state law as we know it. And we also know that punishment from the state is swift, ruthless, and imminent. So I'm concerned how are we going to navigate and balance all those risks and conflicting requirements. That is my comment. Thank you.
Roger.
I have no report today.
Thank you, Roger. Dan?
Well, in light of Superintendent's walk on the beach, my wife and I went down to Pacific Beach on my 75th birthday. That's a big number. And we went to a bar there called World Famous. And it's world famous because of the Mai Tais it makes. So we ordered a couple of Mai Tais to go, and we went out and we sat on the warm sand and the warm air and the sea breeze, and we drank a couple of Mai Tais, which I'm liable to do again next year. It was a good time. But on subject number 2, I think, and I brought this up to the board before, that in our lobby up here, we should have a photograph of the President of the United States, and to be fair, the Governor of the state of California. Yeah. So in light of positive responses from the board, I've contacted Congressman Issa, and I know about how to get get a photograph of the President. And I've contacted Senator Brian Jones about getting a photograph of the governor. So, I don't know how you want to proceed with this, but I'd be more than happy out of my own pocket, if they don't come framed, and I doubt that they will, to take care of the framing.
And I support you 100%.
Yeah, I think it needs to be done.
Great idea. I don't know how we ever forgot about it, but I don't think we need board action to make it happen. I think Brian hears us. And you know what, if there's people who don't support it and you don't want to speak about it publicly here, reach out to Brian or reach out to me and we'll have that conversation. I just want to go over there saying I support it, but we're a group of 5. There might be 3 that don't. So.
Yep.
I don't know that that's a board action item though. So
yeah. But it's operational. But
It's balanced is what it is.
Today, it's balanced. Who knows if it's going to be balanced 2 years from now? Who knows? But it's operational. It really is under the purview of the superintendent. But, I think we can certainly weigh in with direction or opinions. And I think that's probably a good way to govern.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
No.
Okay, so I'll be fast. I have a few things. As we talked about delegates for the Delegate Assembly Region 17, I do have a report from my activities there. I will be brief. At the most recent delegate meeting, there was a lot of discussion about youth mental health. There always is. And I believe that there was some sort of grant that was going out to 4 schools or school districts for the last few years to improve crisis response for youth mental health issues, and that grant is ending. I know those schools are pretty unhappy about it because they were doing some good work. We were not one of those districts, but still, what benefits kids is a good thing. There was a report from the San Diego County Office of Ed, mental health expert Mara Madrigal, talking about a mobile crisis response team which can be used for students, instead of calling 911 and having the sheriff respond, that there are mental health experts that can respond in a crisis situation and tailor what they do specifically for kids, instead of ending up in the back of a cop car in handcuffs. Maybe there's some other things that can be done to avoid that. Some school districts represented are still very concerned about immigration issues. School districts that are near the border, not as much for us. We're farther from the border and we don't have students crossing the border typically to come to Ramona schools, but other school districts in our region do have that. And it's creating a lot of obvious distress for students, families, and district personnel and teachers who want to teach those kids, some of whom might not be able to make it back and forth to attend school. So there are online lessons available by grade level, trying to help kids keep their academic skills up, even if they can't make it to school for any reason, really. But immigration was the focus of this particular conversation. That's about all from the delegate assembly that is important to mention here. I also, as part of delegate assembly, have an assignment to the CIF Coordinating Council, which I've done before. I've been off for a few years, now I'm back on. So that meeting, and Brian, are you part of the board of managers? So Brian sees all this also, and I'm sure more in different things. But at this coordinating council, there was a lot of conversation. There always is, about division sizes and power rankings. It's huge. So no need to talk about that here, really, other than to say that is always front and center in CIF conversations. But 3 interesting things for us tonight. CIF also deals with a lot of transfer of students from one school to another, and they were talking about transfer eligibility changes, reminding everyone that transfers should be educationally sound. And they felt it was important to have special consideration for military and out-of-state students. And they also talked about kids with benefactors at private schools and how that can sometimes motivate transfers. Just to give you an idea about why transfers are such a big conversation, the San Diego section had consideration of 1,700 transfers last year. This year, already 1,100 transfers this fall. It's huge. Yeah, it's a big deal for CIF and these transfer students. So anyway, that was topic number 1 to bring up here. Topic number 2, ejections of adults and others and spectators. So, sometimes adults get carried away when they're at these sporting events, and sometimes they are ejected from sporting events. The San Diego section is pretty stiff on their penalties for ejections of spectators, but they are trying to, I think the changes will happen more at the state level, but trying to get everybody on the same page with what the penalties are for ejections. Some of the problems with the current ejection policy, so our section ejects spectators for 1 to 3 games for a first offense. It gets worse after that, apparently.
You looked at Dan when you started bringing this up.
I was just waiting to see if he was gonna, I could feel a vibration from him on this transfer topic.
I've been kicked out of a football game, but not as a parent.
No, I didn't look at you because of ejections. It was the whole transfer thing and
a
kids
hockey
with
game.
benefactors. What school did you go to? Anyway.
Oh, there you go.
You know about that?
Were you recruited?
Anyway.
No. This is a true story. That's maybe why she looked at me. In 1967, we played Lincoln High School for the Eastern League Championship at Balboa Stadium, and we beat them.
Yes.
And the entire Lincoln student body came out of the stands, crossed the field, and tried to turn over our bus. From that point on, for 4 years, there were no night football games in San Diego.
1967.
1967.
Okay, that's why I looked
That's
at
a true
him,
story.
because I felt
That's
a
when I
little
was born.
vibration over here as I was talking
thought
about
for sure that's what
these
you were looking at me
topics.
about.
No. Okay, ejection policy currently 1 to 3 games for a first offense. There's some problems with their policy is that there's no current policy for carryover of penalty from 1 year to the next. So if somebody gets ejected this year, near the end of the season, they're able to come back the next year of that sport. There's also no current policy for one sport to the next. So say you're at a football game, you get ejected, you may not have served your full consequence and you could come to the soccer game the next week, right? Okay, so topic number 3, not such a lighthearted topic, but it was discussed about Trump's ban of biological males from participating in female sports. This was a hot topic right at the end of the meeting. Obviously, lots of different opinions on it, but just to be clear, CIF follows California law, which right now allows for participation based on gender identity or expression. So as we've discussed, there are many things that come up in education where the state and federal governments are not in agreement, and this is one of them. So, okay, that concludes my report on the CIF meeting. For my own things here, Ramona Unified, I've been interested in our district enrollment by school and maybe by grade level. I've heard that we have some schools where the enrollment's been lower this year than we expected. A couple of schools Brian and I have talked about. I was just wondering if I could, without creating a lot of extra staff work, if those numbers are available for the board members somewhere, somewhere already. If it's creating a big report, especially because I asked, please don't. But if there's information you can point me to, I'd like to see that. Yeah, multi-year is nice, and I just, I'm just concerned about some of our schools where I think enrollment is down, and I want to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep enrollment where it should be, if there's anything in our power to do. And I just kind of want to know, right? Also, last month I mentioned that I was interested in our arrangements with Palomar Community College and our partnership and dual enrollment opportunities for our students, and I'm still hoping that there's a right time when I can hear more about that. And the last thing, and this isn't something that I've talked about here yet before, but school start times. We had the state tell us a couple of years ago that we needed to that our high school and middle school students needed to start no earlier than, I think, 8:30, and in our district, because of transportation, that meant flipping our whole structure of things around because of our buses, right? So now we have little ones trying to get out the door at a really early time to be at school in order to finish those elementary routes and then get the buses over for high school. But I've heard that there is a rural schools exemption for this school start time requirement by the state. And for a variety of reasons, I would like to see that looked at, or maybe staff already has, and maybe the board doesn't want to or does. I don't know how to go about this, but I don't like the little ones starting that early. And I'm not sure that in Ramona we've seen any huge academic or emotional benefit for our high schoolers starting later. I do think that, tying back into the CIF, it makes the sports things a little bit more difficult. Not all of our fields have lights. So while we want to encourage healthy outdoor recreation for our students, and that does tie to mental health, we're inhibiting some ability to do that. And we're also, I think, affecting academics in a way that is not where we want to go. Students need to leave our schools to get to their sporting events in other districts when they have away games, and where they might have just missed 1 hour at the end of a day before, they're probably missing more now. You get into the whole lunchtime thing, and they need to put in their 4 hours in order to be eligible to play in their game that day. But I think that it's resulting in more students missing class time, missing more class time. And I could be wrong, and staff can certainly tell me if I'm wrong, but I just have these questions in my mind about school start times, and if this is an issue that our district wants to dive into, or if we're happy with it the way it is. I don't know if I'm the only one thinking about it. I don't know. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I have a couple items. First item, I have a scheduling conflict for our next meeting in April, on April 10th. I've already checked with Roger because he has historically had some scheduling conflicts, and I believe he would be good to move the April meeting to the week of the 21st. Is there a willingness on this body to go anytime during that week? That Thursday is the 24th, but I would sure appreciate consideration if you guys are willing. What are you pointing at, Dan? The 24th? Oh, the 21st, yeah, that's the first Monday back after Easter.
We're not back on the 21st, but we came back on the 22nd.
The week of the 21st,
Yes.
because we have that Friday and that Monday off for a 4-day weekend.
At this time, if we wanted to do the 24th, Thursday the 24th, I could.
At what time? Okay.
How long do those go? Would it be conclude by open session?
How big is the committee? Wow, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
I could also do Wednesday the 23rd.
That was my
if
next
that-
question. Wednesday
if
the
that
23rd
is
is
helpful.
Or is anybody,
Wednesday the 23rd.
Rogers, no?
Can't do Wednesdays.
22nd, Tuesday?
Yes.
Tuesdays Dawn has the babies?
That's okay. That's during the day. Thanks.
Okay.
I think I can make that work.
Tuesday the 22nd, you're in. I appreciate the consideration, and I would ask that if you guys have scheduling conflicts, please bring it up, and I will do my best to accommodate you when you request. So.
So do you need a motion and action? How do we need to do this
We voted
procedurally?
on it before as an action item.
Right.
The schedule. So in order to be better safe than, it's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
It is on the agenda as an announcement, but not an action.
yeah.
Classified as a regular board. So, I'm not sure.
Is there anything happening at that meeting that couldn't be done at a special?
No, not that I know.
Can you help me out and look and get back to us? I sure would appreciate it. And then, and I appreciate your all willingness to be flexible. And then the only other thing is, we talked a little bit about it earlier, is please know that the board protocols are going to be coming out for review. And please just take a look at them. If you want to bring them back to a meeting or a board workshop for conversation and consideration of changes, I'll work with the superintendent to get that scheduled, and maybe you guys want a board workshop to discuss this board protocols and any other items that may come up. So, Dan, you look like you're ready to say something. You ready?
Times they are a change.
Right? They are. So, and the only other thing I have is congratulations to all the teachers and classified staff members who are being designated and recognized as their site employees of the year. If we could get some information on who they are and what makes them so doggone good at their job, it sure would be nice to hear that and be able to celebrate that.
Well, we do.
And we will.
We do.
Yes, but
Yeah.
you know, how can we? Yeah, we'll bring them here, and how can we celebrate them even more? Because it's quite an achievement to be recognized as the site employee of the year, and there's so many good things going on. Let's try to celebrate it up.
Mai Tai World Games?
Made me jealous. He made me jealous. But I was going to ask how many times did he look at his phone and try to take notes? Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do this. So having said that, if there's nothing else for the good
Oh,
of the
there's,
order.
I forgot a small part of my report.
Okay.
I skipped it.
Okay.
So actually, to comply with our protocols, which says that placing item on the agenda could be done during board report section, I would like to formally request again place action item on the agenda for April, and would state eliminate a graduation requirement for ethnic studies in Ramona Unified School District until the California legislature assigns funding.
So your request is noted. I'd also, since you brought up board protocols, I would ask you to review them. It talks about assigning staff assignments as an individual member of the board. And I would also let you know that making a request at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon with an expectation of the product at 8 o'clock on Monday morning is unreasonable. So please refrain from doing that in the future.
What's the timeline, like a week before?
No,
2 weeks
it's
before?
Friday afternoon. Well,
No, I mean, like,
be reasonable and be respectful of staff.
like, when are you suggesting how early to make a suggestion to get it onto the next agenda?
Oh,
Yeah,
that we're
that's
gonna have
what-
to
that's
figure
what I
out
mean.
what goes into the agenda, when it's good timing,
Right.
when we have room.
What was it saying, like, what do you prefer? Just so she's clear.
A month or two.
Okay.
But two different topics.
Right.
So her request is noted, but, I think it's important that we as a board collaborate and really see what's important. And, our board protocols say if you're going to give an assignment to the superintendent, it really needs to be done here and discussed. It can't just go, hey, I want to give you something. As individuals, he doesn't work for me. He doesn't work for you. He works for us collectively.
Right.
So let's give him the assignments that we all support on giving him.
So you're suggesting 1 month? Then we
At
should-
least a month.
So that's something that we can talk about, put in our protocols, because we don't have a, like, when
It's-
is appropriate.
Correct. It's the timeframe is
Yeah.
not outlined in the protocols.
Not at all.
I always looked at that like, we can make requests for things to be on the agenda, but it seems that the timing is the purview of the president with the soup, right? Yeah, there's just a lot of considerations about what's the right time to have a particular topic on an agenda. Sometimes it fits in with something we think we're gonna see coming down the road, sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah.
Most of the time, it's really about timing, because their staff works amazing and they get answers ASAP.
Yeah.
However, when there's a request at a time when there's no one else in the building, and it's expected to be that there's
Right.
something on the next
Well,
day.
yeah.
Work day is out of all of our hands, so just to be reasonable, and they work amazingly fast, so.
And
no
remember,
request to take our time, but-
in addition to that, remember that you don't work for any individual on this board. So for somebody to give you an assignment is really not appropriate, especially if it's and as you have, if it is a general, something that can be produced quickly without an exorbitant amount of staff time, absolutely. But if it's gonna require a significant amount of staff time, it's probably something that we collectively should give you direction on. I've had interaction with city councils where they needed a majority of a board to manage something that was more than 1 hour's work. If it was gonna take staff more than 1 hour of staff time, then they needed to have it, a conversation as a board to support that. And that may be coming as a future recommendation for a board policy, so that we collectively give you direction instead of 5 individuals giving you direction. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to staff. If we have 5 individuals giving you, assignments, regardless of when their due date is, you still have to run the district. So anyway, please review those board policy, protocols. If you want to bring something in about time frame, we'll get something on the
I
schedule.
want to bring something in about stillness.
That's not bad. So, having said that, unless there are no objections or anything for the good of the order, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
And thank you, everybody. We can plan on our next meeting being Wednesday, the 23rd, unless there's a reason why we can't have it, Brian. If you would look into that, I would sure appreciate it. 22nd. Okay. 22nd. Unless there's a reason that we can't, I would sure appreciate it.
Is there anything
Thank
we
you.
need to sign?
Oh, both of us.
I'm asking because I figured there would be.